Nope. First time.
All right. Well, introduce yourself, Steve, and tell us what you're going to be drawing.
Yeah, hey, this is Steve Stegelin. I do cartoons for the Charleston City
Oops.
paper, and I'm also a contributor to the new issue of Cincinnati Cabinet Curiosities with a fun cryptid romp called Cryptids Together. So I will be drawing cryptids appropriately enough for the next couple hours. So any requests for any particular cryptids, send them in the chat, and if not, I
Let's
will
see.
just wing it.
Any notes? I need to get back to. And I'm Christina Wald. You know me from all the different the podcast, the comic. I'm going to be doing a digital demo today, which I'll be bringing on and off because I can't have as many screens on when I have my screen share on. And I'm going to see. Let's see if I can get comments. No one has commented yet, but if anyone has requests for Steve or me, um, go ahead. I'm actually going to be drawing a flapper, I decided. So
Oh, nice.
I've got I'll show my screen really quick here. I've got my screen here, and I will periodically pop back into that. And we're going to have Kat joining us here soon, and she's going to be telling us some ghost stories and drawing. So, Steve, what do you think? Maybe drawing some cryptids? What was your favorite from the story you did?
Oh, that's a good question. So it's a tough call. The frogman is so fun to draw just because he was kind of expressive. And I love drawing monkeys. So the double monkey was fantastic.
And tell us about the monkey because that was one that I wasn't aware of. And we're always looking for new stuff like for the future issue. I mean, it's looking very likely we're going to have an issue 3 because we
Awesome.
are only, I think, $220 away from eight grand, which means we'll be sailing into issue 3. So tell us a little bit about that cryptid because I
Yeah.
wasn't aware of it.
Yeah, I wasn't either until I started doing some research for the story. So basically, I was trying to cover the Ohio Valley as much as I could, focus on
Mm-hmm.
Cincinnati, but seeing, also Portsmouth area because I've got family in the area. And obviously, the Mothman is close to there. But I did find a story about these devil monkeys that were just seen as a one-time kind of occurrence, but it made the news enough that these scary little monkey creatures are kind of seen around the Portsmouth area. And there was some conjecture. I guess there's another cryptid that with a story that's centuries old about some iron ton area like a devil that was like in a mine, and so there was some conjecture that maybe the devil monkeys were somehow tied into this demon from the mines of Ironton.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's funny because in Cincinnati, just I want to say this summer, I can't remember. Maybe somebody will comment. There was a bunch of people claim they saw monkeys in a graveyard in Price Hill, and it turned out they think they were wild turkeys. So it was like this news story was carried on all the networks. I mean, you're in the news yourself as a political cartoonist, so you probably see this sort of weird thing happen. It's like one person reports on it, and then somebody else reports on it, and then
It
suddenly it becomes
takes
this
life of its
thing.
own, totally. Yep.
Yeah, and then they investigate it, and it turns out it wasn't it. It
Yeah,
was just
totally.
somebody saw movement in a tree and said, "Oh, I think it's a monkey."
Exactly.
Now, I mean, to me, a turkey has always looked a little different from a monkey, but
I
I
would think
suppose if
so.
if
Yep.
it's far away and you see movement,
Totally. Makes a noise like a potentially like a ape or something. Totally.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, let's see. I think that yeah, just draw. So you're gonna either draw the frogman or because you've probably felt like you've drawn the Creswick snake a lot. That's kind of seemed like the patron saint of our, if that is such a
Of
thing.
the
I
issue.
mean,
Yeah,
he would like
totally.
that. You said you made him a narcissist, so he
I
probably would
did.
like being considered a patron saint.
That's right. I think you would find that quite the honor and quite appropriate.
Yes, yes. Draw whichever cryptid you want to do. I don't know if you want to adjust your camera so you can see what you're drawing better. I don't know if that um
Yeah. See what I can do here.
I don't know if you have that or if you have two cameras and you can kind of adjust one
Oh,
like looking
good
at
thought.
your because you can take two screens. We can have up to 10. So if each
So
of
if
us
I'm
had
like
two,
this might be decent enough.
do
I
you
don't know.
think if you could see it,
Yeah, we'll
would you
figure it out. We'll wing
yeah,
it.
we could figure
So
it out. Just start drawing because I like I said, if I bring on my screen that I'm doing, it's very tiny for you. So I'm going to work on my screen for a little bit and
Gotcha.
then pop back in.
Yeah, that
But I'm
sounds
going to
good.
leave it like this for a little bit so that you can. And if you decide you want to set up a second camera, then I can try to
Okay.
put both on. Oh, and I
Cool.
just got a message. So keep drawing and I will.
Sounds good.
I think Kat's about to join us.
Nice.
I just got a message. Oh, and she's here. Hey,
Hey, it's
how are
Kat.
ya?
Happy Halloween, everyone!
Yes,
Yay.
Hair
yes.
dryer broke.
What happened?
no.
What broke?
My hair dryer.
Oh
So
no! I thought it was like some sort of Halloween thing. You were like trying to look like you.
no. But here we are. We're on
Yeah.
a live stream. Hello, world.
Yep.
Yup.
Yes. Steve was just starting. And I was saying if you wanna, so I have my screen that I'm going to be drawing on, but I'm going to just pop into that occasionally because I don't know. Forgive my ignorance with StreamYard, but I don't know how to make this smaller yet. There is a way to do it, but I don't know how to do it yet.
That's fine.
It might take some of the Google to figure this out. Nothing is impossible
Google.
with Google or something.
No.
Well, I can chat on while you are drawing. So would you like me to be an MC while Steve is drawing? So
Yes, and he's
Nice.
going to be drawing a cryptid. We were hoping somebody might.
Yes.
He was talking about, we were talking about the monkeys in
In Portsmouth, the devil monkeys. Yeah.
yes,
Oh, the devil monkeys. You know who would know those stories is probably Tim, our art director. For
Yes.
those who don't
He
know.
came from Portsmouth. That's right.
Yep. He's probably heard of the devil monkeys. Oh, I'm just trying to pull up some wonderful information about our Kickstarter and all that good stuff.
Which I have at the ticker at the bottom also has.
I noticed. That's what reminded me. I'm like, hey, I should probably look that up.
And I will
So-
also give our Instagram handles if people are interested in following us. For example, Steve is always posting really cool cartoons,
Oh, thank you.
Yes, he is.
and I always enjoy seeing those.
Yep.
and
my
it-
handle is just my last name at Stegelin.
Yeah.
So
Well, it
there
makes
you
it-
go.
Stegelin!
Not
We
hiding
finally
anything.
get an answer to the riddle of how do you
Riddle, how do you
pronounce
say it?
Steve's last name,
Yeah.
Stegelin.
It's a lifelong struggle.
Mhm.
Totally.
Yeah.
And one good thing about me you doing the screen share while I'm drawing is you see fewer cat butts. So it was I was doing a live draw event with the Mazda Museum,
Oh,
and the kids all started laughing because I had a camera on myself like you see right now, and then I had a camera on my drawing pad that I was drawing on. At some point my calico Miffy was sitting on it, so in one screen all you saw was a giant cat butt. So they like that. Probably better than the drawing, actually.
nice.
Don't sell yourself short. It's just cat butts can be
Entertaining.
cute
Yeah,
in
totally.
the right circles. So
Well, it's like the was it Norman Rockwell said, if a drawing's not working, add a dog, and if it's still
Yeah.
not working, put a bandage on the dog's leg.
Nice.
no.
I think you could say that with cryptids too.
I think
mean,
so.
if it's not if a piece is not working, add a cryptid, and if it's still not working, add another cryptid.
Yeah.
Is that kind of how you came up with your story, Steve? And if it's still not working, add another cryptid.
That's right. Exactly. How many
Oh,
cats are the story
cryptids.
works? Probably need a lot of help. I threw in a bunch. So yeah.
You're like, it feels like it needs more cryptids.
More cryptids. You can
More
never go wrong with more
cryptids.
cryptids.
And I think while you're looking that up, Kat also thinking of our podcast might tell us a haunted story or two.
Oh, I got so many haunted stories. I can't choose.
Today's
Well,
the day.
So I'm literally going to need a topic from somebody, and I'll just go from there because I have over 20 years of strange stories to talk about. So I'm actually right now sharing our link. Oh, look, it's me. I'm talking live. Let me mute myself.
Let me see if I should be able to see comments when they come in here. So, if people are watching on YouTube or in
Yeah.
or in. So, which is where we're and then this will actually stream and be saved on YouTube.
Oh, nice.
Oh, cool.
So people can rewatch it and see what we're drawing. We're going to have Tom Miller joining us at about 4. So it should be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
We'll be showing lots of drawings and, all that fun stuff. This is like one of those telethons.
Exactly.
It really feels like one of those. I will be honest, the Parks and Rec telethon episode is kind of going through my head. Warn me if anybody wants to do the worm so that we can get the camera ready and warmed up.
Nice.
Mm-hmm. The worm? Is that like from the show?
Yes, Pert Hadley, who is the regular announcer anchor guy on the show, does the worm for it. So
I don't think I saw. I've seen episodes of it, but I don't think I saw that one.
Oh yeah, well, it's how some people watch The Office and that's their warm fuzzy
jam. Totally.
Yeah, mine is Parks and Rec. I think part of it is because I have friends who are parts of Park and Rec departments, so I hear a lot about their stories. Also, for those who don't know, I'm from Indiana, so they nail it pretty well with the small town Americana, especially the flavor of Hoosiers and how odd we all can be. So, look, I found us.
So one thing about it being Halloween is the veil is thinner. So, have you ever noticed any sort of Halloween experiences, like seeing more spirits than usual, or you've often said you kind of close yourself off to that unless required?
Yeah, that's just the way to save your sanity when you are a medium, especially a spirit medium around Halloween. And it isn't just Halloween. It's not like a one day and everything's gone type of thing. It really ramps up starting in August and dissipates around December. So that entire fall time period of the year, I wanted to say the world, it starts ramping up, and you start seeing it around August when we have Obon in Japan and Taiwan, and they're basically death festivals out in East Asia, and then it just ramps up from there. So yeah, definitely when I when I let Yeti out to go to the bathroom at 3 a.m. this morning, and that was no particular time. That's just when little one had to go out. He is, for those who haven't seen him on social media, a 12-week-old puppy. So his bladder is the size of a peanut and he has to go to the bathroom. But when I stepped outside, I was like, wow, yep, everything feels slightly elevated today. Like things may move around your house more frequently than it normally would if you have.
We might see more shadow people then.
May see more shadow people. When I was growing up, yeah, I saw a lot more spirit activity. And it was kind of crazy, just the amount of stuff that I saw. And yeah, shadow people definitely look just walking past a cemetery, and I would see ghosts of the dead hanging around their headstones or family headstones. Yeah, so. And it's not just dead people. You got animals too. So cows walking down streets, pigs, like all that kind of stuff. So
that sounds interesting. So you've actually seen livestock before, like walking down the street?
It's not common, but it can happen, especially for an area that had livestock for a really long time. So yeah, you can hear like phantom sounds. Phantom sounds are usually what's more common with them. You'll hear a lot of horses, cows mooing, or pigs. But those are more common. So whenever we're doing like an actual paranormal investigation, we do a grounds check to make sure, like if we're near a farm, which when you're in Ohio and Indiana running investigations, yeah, chances are you're going to be near a farm within some mileage. So see where they are, what kind of animals there are. Also train tracks. We get a lot of train tracks. So a lot of our old towns are along train railways. So just making sure whatever ambient sounds you may be hearing are explainable. You're always looking for the explainable first. So paranormal is the absolute last thing.
There was just a thing on NPR about that, and it was talking about how, you try to find a rational, quote, rational, whatever rational explanation means.
You're just, a lot of it actually is just, if you hear footsteps, oh my goodness. Yeah, hearing footsteps in rooms above you that you know no one's in, or one of the great ones is hearing footsteps in a house that doesn't have a second floor.
Oh,
the chances are it's a bird.
Oh,
You've got a bird. So that's from firsthand experience doing investigations in places, or bats. Those shuffle around a lot. Squirrels will shuffle around a lot. I've been on investigations where we had raccoons in the air ducts, or possums in the air duct systems, and this was an old rundown house. And over at Mansfield Reformatory in northern Ohio, it's quite common to hear what people perceive as footsteps walking in the large cell towers, but they're actually, and the volunteers will tell this to people who visit, they aren't ghosts, those are pigeons walking along the top. And because of the way the acoustics are, it kind of amplifies and sounds like human footsteps, but no, they're pigeons. So
oh, interesting.
Yeah. So you're always looking as an investigator for why sounds are happening, and trying to eliminate as much as of the natural world as you can. And then when you've eliminated everything, that's when you start looking into the paranormal.
Mm-hmm. So, well, I would think that there's and one thing I was just thinking about, is there, like with all the cell phone towers and all of that, does that ever interfere with sort of perception of these sorts of things, of ghostly things? And
not cell phone towers. Contrary to some popular belief, no, your cell is not going to do anything.
Well, I was thinking even beyond that, like electricity and stuff like that. Like one thing I've heard about cats is that they can hear electricity and current in your walls and that sort of thing.
I don't know about that, but we do have EMF detectors, and that's electronic magnetic field detectors. And those get used for an investigation more to say where not the live wires, but where the electricity is running in your walls. So, and if you have it and it's unshielded or not properly taken care of, maintained, then it could actually be sending electronic EMF field frequencies out. And our brains have a limited amount of that going on. We are mostly made out of water, so when we do get close to something that's electrified, you start kind of feeling it. It makes you feel a little funny. It does. It can cause some hallucinations, psychosis, make you actually feel nauseous and ill. So when we're investigating a location and somebody is reporting these types of phenomena happening to them or a family member, then that's what we're looking for, is unshielded, ungrounded electric, basically wiring in the house. And this is very common for houses built before 1974, because you're going to have cable Romex and not the current standards of your code, basically, for electric. And in one case, there was a child that was having, a young child, like toddler or infant, that wasn't sleeping well. It turned out that the family, and they were seeing shadow people and feeling nauseous, and a lot of the same types of things that have been reported by people who are experiencing paranormal phenomena, but also electric EMF fields.
Interesting.
Yeah, so we've discovered that they had put the baby's crib right against the breaker box.
Oh, wow.
And that was on the other side of the wall. Well, they didn't think about that. I mean, how many people are thinking about what's on the other side of the wall when you're placing furniture in a room, and where your beds are and all that?
Oh, here's Tom.
Yeah. Yay, Tom.
Bring him up.
Nice. So, yeah, and once we explain to them, hey there, Tom.
We see the top of your head.
Yeah.
There he is.
Yay.
Hey.
Hey, Tom.
So, yeah, To quickly finish the story, once we told them to move the crib, they did, and all the issues disappeared. And it was very, very real world issue. So, it's Tom.
Yes. So Steve's drawing a cryptid. I'm drawing a flapper. And what are you drawing today, Tom? I don't think he can hear us. Can you hear us, Tom? I don't think he can hear us.
Oh, no. Oh.
Oh, well, keep on with your story, and when he hears us, he will.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's an explainable phenomena. One of our unexplainable phenomena was I was on a ghost hunt in Tippecanoe County, Indiana, over a decade ago. We were in what would be a settler's cemetery out in the middle of a cornfield, and it was the middle of August, which means it's hot and humid, and all the corn, of course, is green and growing very tall. And it was a group of about 15 of us spread along this entire cemetery. And some of the headstones were still there. Some of them had been lost. And we were experiencing what is known as the phenomena of cold spots. And it was the first cold spot that I've actually ever encountered. It was extremely humid. I was sweating and a lot. And I just remember looking at a headstone, and we're trying to make communication with any spirit that may be around. And suddenly it felt like the temperature just dropped 20 degrees.
Oh,
and
wow.
I was the only one who was feeling it, even though there was a person literally right next to me. And when I moved and they moved into the place where I was, then they felt the cold spot.
Oh, wow.
So that was interesting. It was notable. We didn't know why this happened. If anybody is a meteorologist and can explain why one cold spot can hit one area of a cemetery with no wind, I'm all ears. But we had to end up running out of that cemetery because then we started getting circled by a pack of coyotes.
Ooh.
So we kind of got into our cars as quickly as possible and drove away because we didn't want to become food.
Good call.
Yeah.
That would be bad. That would be really bad.
I would find it slightly uncomfortable. And no, Tom, we cannot hear you. This is like a Ouija board section, except for we can actually see who we're trying to contact.
I know, except it's easier to contact him because instead of a Ouija board, I'm using Messenger.
Yeah, it's instantaneous.
There you go.
Oh, yeah.
He says he can't hear us and we can't hear him. Maybe he should be doing semaphore.
Yes.
He could be doing flags.
That'd be impressive.
That would be impressive. Although if he did semaphore, I wouldn't know how to read it.
That's true.
No.
I mean, all I've seen is the Monty Python episode, and it wasn't enough for me to be able to see what that means.
That was a part of Girl Scouts I failed.
Girl Scouts had a Monty Python session?
No, the flag communication.
Oh. I was like, wow.
That'd be amazing.
I would not put it past them for modern Girl Scouts to have something with like pulp culture media badges or something like that. Yeah. But
I think that's really forward thinking, actually.
It is. Like there was like what is it? I was just thinking the SOS and I'm like, we could be heard now.
Woohoo!
Morse code. There was a Morse code section and all that, and I can't Morse code myself out of anything. I'm hosed if I
how are
end
you
up
ever
on
going to
desert
solve
island.
a murder mystery? I mean,
I
it
know,
seems
right?
like almost all of them have Morse code or something.
Mm-hmm.
Like even that movie. I don't know if anyone here watched Squid Game, but even Squid Game had Morse code in it.
Well, I'd be dead.
I know. Well, exactly. So it seems like knowing Morse code is essential to your or Hercule Poirot's survival.
Yeah. Nope. Dead gal walking.
You know, I wouldn't know it either. I guess we didn't study that enough. I was in Girl Scouts for a long time, but Morse code never came up.
Oh. Yeah, I graduated out of actual Girl Scouts, so like badges, everything. How to heat your house with a clay pot.
Wow.
Yeah.
They have a lot of new.
Yeah.
They have a lot of new badges like computer engineering and robotics and stuff. So I would like to see like a Girl Scout badge for like, killer robots, like some sort of robot army.
I am sure that exists now. Well, I don't know about the robot army, but definitely robotics. I think that was one of their new ones.
If they decide to kill all humans, you get the badge.
Nice.
If you survive, that is. I mean, that's part of it. If you don't survive, then...
I guess you're coming back as a zombie now. Zombies versus robots.
Yes,
Ooh, that does sound like a fun... I'm pretty sure that's been done, but that sounds really fun.
Yeah, you know what? Neil Gaiman says, it may have been done before, but only you can do you.
That's true.
Yep. Yeah, that's what Brad Geiger says.
Yeah, so if your take on robots and zombies would be different from anyone else's.
Yes, exactly.
So I think that would be cool. So what are you drawing today, Tom?
No, can you hear me now?
We can hear you.
So can hear
Hello.
Me?
Happy Halloween.
Okay, good. Happy Halloween. Absolutely nothing yet. I just sent it just like a blank piece of paper. So I was inspired possibly by zombies versus robots. So we'll see what comes up.
Nice.
Oh, okay. I was pulling up a random horror generator to see what we could get topics that way.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, nice.
Random horror, because let's see, random horror movies.
And right now we are sitting at 179 backers, so hopefully we can make it to 180 or even 185 while we're on here today. So, everybody thank you if you've backed so far, and consider backing so that we can have another issue.
Ooh, I have found this is a random horror story generator.
Ooh.
And I am filling in the suggestions just so that the computer is choosing all this.
It's kind of like Mad Libs, but horror.
Exactly.
Nice.
It's exactly like that. And maybe we can I won't suggest drawing comics because that would take too long, but maybe. What's our pen name? Natty.
Yeah, Natty, the flaming skull, our beloved mascot.
All right. So, everyone, we have The Curse of the Giant Blade, written by Natty.
Nice.
I think that sounds like something Natty would write.
Yes. Sorry, just reading the first sentence was great. Whilst investigating the death of a local scout. Well, because I didn't know Morse code. An articulate shopkeeper called Zach Godfrey uncovers a legend about a supernaturally cursed giant blade circulating throughout Australia. As soon as anyone uses the blade, he or she has exactly 99 days left to live. That's a long time. That's over 3 months.
It's called a slow-moving curse.
Affairs in order in 3 months.
Totally.
Hey, that's a very generous person cursing you. Yeah.
That's a very considerate curse.
Yeah,
that's why I'm
like
laughing.
They let you settle your order, your estate and everything.
Yeah.
That actually sounds like I've always theorized that there's many movies that we see that were made by a random plot generator.
Yes.
And,
I'm actually not done. I just started laughing too much. The doomed few appear to be ordinary people during the day-to-day life, but when photographed, they look shrunken. A marked person feels like an important rabbit to the touch.
Does it say rabbit? It says rabbit to the touch?
An important rabbit to the touch.
Whoa.
Okay.
Zach gets a hold of the blade, refusing to believe the superstition. A No, wait. A collage of images flash into his mind. A spotty mouse balancing on a giant scout. An old newspaper headline about a dancing accident. A hooded fox ranting about legs and drinking well located in a deserted place.
I don't know. This sounds pretty good. I mean, I think I'm ready to pitch this.
Yeah. When Zach notices his fingernails have rabbit-like properties, he realizes that the curse of the giant blade is true and calls in his son, a teacher called Shane Jolie, to help. Shane examines the blade and willingly submits himself to the curse. He finds that the same visions flash before his eyes. He's finding the spotty mouse he finds the spotty mouse balancing on a giant scout particularly chilling. He joins the queue for a supernatural death. Zack and Shane pursue a quest to uncover the meaning of the visions, started with a search for the hooded fox. Will they be able to stop the curse before their time is up?
I don't think so. I mean, whenever you get infected by were-rabbit,
You
DNA
do have 90 days, though, so you got some time.
Yeah, you got 90 days.
You got 99 days to not be a were-rabbit. Would this be the curse of the jackalope?
Oh,
almost.
It could be. Or there was, what was it? Was it Night of the Lepus?
Yeah.
Was it that the
Right, Night of the Lepus. Yep. With very slow motion giant rabbits. Yeah.
So it seems likely
So far,
that 90 days would take 90 days to kill you.
Exactly.
You're slowly transforming over 90 days into a giant rabbit.
Giant rabbit.
Yeah.
I mean, there could be worse things. Not sure what, but there could be worse things. I mean,
rabbits are cuddly.
That's right.
Outside of Monty Python.
What about? I mean, I think it'd be cool if they had like Night of the Capybara, because those are. I've always thought like Edward Gorey, like some of his creatures kind of looked like capybaras in his stories. I don't know if they were. But did anyone ever remember seeing those?
No.
The Edward Gorey drawings, and he like has. I think one's called the was it the something guest? Was it the uninvited guest? I can't remember. I'll have to look it up.
The uninvited.
Is that what it was? And the guest kind of looked like a anthropomorphized capybara. I don't know.
Nice.
But they are pretty cool. That's like an animal.
That's the giant hamster from South America.
Yeah. Capybaras are very cute. Yeah, they're giant and they're the largest rodents in the world.
I'm looking at his artwork right now.
Isn't he cool? Are you familiar with Gorey?
I know him. I know him from Masterpiece Theater.
Yeah, I think that's what a lot of people remember him from. But
and I know he's, I believe, from Massachusetts, and they have a large museum dedicated to him in his old home. And I never made it there when I was living in Rhode Island, which made me very sad. But there was a lot to do, and so
he's definitely an interesting dude. How he draws men in giant fur coats and stuff like that. That's how he dressed. He actually drew the way he liked to present himself. He was an interesting fellow. Wrote a lot of very interesting, I don't want to say children's books, because they aren't really children's books. They're sort of picture books for adults.
Yeah, there's one called The Doubtful Guest, which is what I think you were talking about.
That's what it was, The Doubtful Guest.
Yeah, it looks kind of like a capybara, but with a thinner face.
I always thought he kind of like a penguin kind of a critter.
Yeah.
That's what I'm thinking of.
Yeah, it looks like a furry penguin. This is great. I don't know. No, I don't want to screen share. Not right now.
I have my screen shared right now, so I don't know if we can do two screen shares, but I can
I don't see
share.
your screen. I just
Yeah.
see
That's
your
because I don't
face.
have it on. If I do the screen share, or if I share the screen share, it does this. So,
Oh, I see. It squeezes all of us to the
yes, it
side.
squeezes all. So I will occasionally show
Yeah,
what I'm
that's
working
okay.
on, but I don't want to.
Yeah, totally. It's fine.
But that was a sneak peek of what I'm working on. So,
I like it.
Nice.
So I am going to show occasional peaks, but I'm not going to show it live unless I'm the only one on occasionally.
Okay.
So we've got kind of a long live stream here.
We do, but there's a lot of us.
Yes.
This year.
True.
Last year, I think it was just me and you, Christina, with Brandon doing.
I think
my role.
Brandon did it, and then we also had Rodney on for a while too. And I think it was about the same amount of time.
Yeah. Well, happy Halloween, everyone. What are you up
Yes.
to today besides this wonderful event?
Go ahead, if those who are drawing. What were you doing today, Tom?
Don't rush. We can take our time.
Actually, we participated in ritual cannibalism today because we went to mass.
Oh, nice.
Oh, nice.
I was wondering today what churches would do. Churches, I guess synagogues would have been yesterday, but what would they say? What would be mass today? They say Happy Halloween. Do they acknowledge it?
They do. At least they
Pretty
did when I
much.
used to go to church.
Tomorrow is All Souls Day.
Yeah.
So that's actually a Catholic day of obligation. All Soul Days. So you're more like saying it's sort of like a Catholic Mexican kind of thing. It's a time to remember all the people that you know that have died and gone on and that type of thing.
Yeah.
So
like
Dia de los
Dia de
Muertos
Muertos.
kind of thing.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, 'tis the season. This is when we stop and remember all that have passed this year and before.
Yeah, I mean, I think that they acknowledge. I mean, they have Halloween events usually and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I've never, trying to think what kind of stuff that they used to have when I was a kid.
We had a costume contest at my church.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of them used to. I don't know if they still do, but a lot of them used to do Halloween-oriented events.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Steve, what are you up to today?
Did brunch before I came here, and going to see Dune later on tonight. So yeah, that's pretty much my Halloween plans.
That sounds fun.
Yeah, we saw Dune last week.
How was it?
And I enjoyed it. What did you think of it, Tom?
I think you and I were chatting about this, that everything that everybody said was of great importance because they spoke in sort of a low monotone. It'd be like, good morning.
That's awesome.
So, so sort of that kind of, very serious tonality to it, but it looked great. I mean, it looked amazing.
Cool.
Little Monica. I think that when I was talking to my brother who worked on the David Lynch Dune,
nice.
His comment when we were chatting about it was that he felt that they didn't work real hard to make Caladan, Arrakis, and Gadi Prime look very different. And Lynch did do that, where you had sort of almost a Baroque look to Caladan in the first Dune, and very, very heavy industrialized look to Gadi Prime. And Arrakis was just different in its own way, sort of very blocky, Middle Eastern kind of a look to it. And this one, most of them were fairly large, empty vistas, even within the buildings and stuff. So I think they could have done more in terms of that kind of design in general, the production design of it. I love the ornithopters. I mean, it's a crazy idea, but I thought they were absolutely awesome that they went ahead and went with them because they look great. So sort of like anthropomorphic dragonfly mechanical things were very, very cool. So, but I thoroughly enjoyed it. Looking forward to the rest of it.
I mean, I feel like a lot of times, one thing that happens a lot with design and science fiction is it tends to like make everything look sort of post-century modern style still. That's one thing I actually liked about Babylon 5 was that Babylon 5 had like very rich sort of steampunk almost interiors with lots of rich fabrics and fancy stuff. And I'd like to see, and I understand why they don't have that much in science fiction, probably because it's a lot more expensive to design costumes and interiors that are, more rich. It's much easier to like just have a couple pieces of concrete that are spray painted black and make that your background than to make something that's sumptuous. I mean, if you listen to especially like old film type stuff and old theater, the illusions that they would use to make something look like something, and you could see why. I mean, now you see more than ever very fancy stuff for movies, and one of the difficulties is that you only see it that's why the art books are nice, because you see it on the screen for so little amount of time. You don't necessarily notice that it's notice the
true. Of course, these days it'd be so easy to do do virtual sets essentially. So many of the things these days we don't even realize how much of them really is a real set that's been built versus stuff being done on green screen and the like. So it's almost impossible to tell anymore.
Oh, I mean, it's absolutely amazing.
There's my robot and zombie.
Oh,
Nice.
That's cool.
That's awesome,
That's
dude.
looking really cool. That's awesome. They look like friends.
You see the brain.
What do you have going? And what do you have going on here, Steve? Show what you're working on.
Yep. So been drawing a crosswick snake from
Together. That's wonderful.
Thank you.
I liked him. He had so much personality.
Thank you very much.
I mean, that's a great illustration. That's wonderful.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
I loved just your work with the crosswick snake and how, and I know I mentioned this in every interview, but how you and Aziza managed to write vastly different interpretations of the crosswick snake.
Yeah, totally. I was totally impressed because when we first kind of did our first kind of meet and greet after submissions, and I found out there was two of us doing the same, cryptid. I was like, oh, is that, how's that going to work out? But we definitely, like you said, tackled it from totally different angles and two different stories altogether and experiences. It's very impressive. Yeah,
both of you gave me such detailed treatments of your stories that I could tell immediately that they were going to be very different treatments. And there was more than enough room for both stories in this anthology.
Well, and awesome. Everybody loves cryptids.
Everyone really does. And the crosswick snake does not get a whole lot of love. It's overshadowed. And why I love the nature of your crosswick snake, Steve, is that it does not realize that it's been overshadowed by the Loveland Frogman at all. Nice. He's in his own little world, and he is the big fish in that tiny pond. Exactly. And I love it.
Well, thank you.
Isn't that like true of everyone?
That's right. That's what I figured.
Yeah, it's sort of a, everybody's kind of in their own world.
Yep.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Especially this year.
Yeah, exactly. thinking Rosencrantz and Guildenstern are dead.
That's right.
Anybody could be the star of their own story.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're referencing Tom Stoppard, and we're referencing.
We're grabbing stuff from
everything.
Everything, yeah. So I'm trying to figure out what would be a good topic for today. I did like our topic from the last podcast, and for you, those who are listening and dropping in, we are the Cabinet of Curiosities here in Cincinnati, and we run a podcast as well, Christina and I, with our friend Jen, who is not pictured right now, and on our we'll be on tomorrow, and Ooh, on our last episode, we talked about the history of Stingy Jack, and I had a lot of fun drawing that Stingy Jack illustration earlier this week.
And hopefully, this picture you're doing of the Crosswick snake might be one of your sketch rewards.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Have you talked about the Kickstarter at all yet, Christina?
Just that we have one, and that we're almost at 180 backers.
Nice.
So hopefully we can get up to 200 by end of day Tuesday.
Yes. So the end of the day Tuesday is the end of our Kickstarter. And we are kickstarting for the Cincinnati Cabinet of Curiosities issue 2. And we have, of course, several of the artists here. Tom, Steve, Christina, and myself all drew comics for this anthology. I am the editor, Christina. Hey there, Tom. Christina is also the social media manager and our project manager, I would say, and producer. You wear a lot of hats for this, Christina. Yeah.
I suffer.
Whoa, what was that?
That was weird. It was a shriek. I think it sounded like something moved across the microphone or something.
Nice.
Okay. Maybe a zombie finally got a robot.
Yeah.
That's I think what it was actually.
Yeah.
I mean, and I run the Kickstarter and wrangle things.
Yes. So we have been running this Kickstarter since October 4th. It goes until November 3rd at midnight, and we are raising funds for the Cincinnati Cabinet of Curiosities issue 2, and we managed, that's been funded. We'll be able to print and distribute copies of issue 2 to all the people who pre-ordered this month.
Thanks much.
Right now, yes, thank you very much. Right now, we are raising money so we could do the same for issue 3, which will be next year with an all-new set of artists and writers. Well, not completely all new. We'll have a mix like this year of new artists and writers and returning veterans. So it's been a lot of fun. We talk a lot on the podcast about it. This is our turn for us artists to just kind of show our mad drawing skills.
Yeah, I mean it's and if you've been saying, it also is a way to archive these stories around the tri-state area.
Yes.
Well, hello there, Chewie.
Oh, and
we're getting a first special guest.
I said there'd be some surprise guests.
Yes. Well, today's first surprise guest is my dog Chewie.
How's he getting along with the puppy?
Oh, really well. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Oh! There we go. He's a big boy.
He is a big boy. That's awesome.
Yeah, this is my 50 pounds of fluff. So, Chewie likes to help out a lot. He follows me around. He goes on our trips. He went and visited the dollhouse graves of Indiana with us a few months ago. Okay, I'll let you know.
I think he liked that.
Yeah, he did. He likes car rides. And he likes to burst in here like the Kool-Aid man and go, oh yeah.
Well, that's it. So are all the dogs getting along together?
Oh yeah, they're doing dandy. The Yeti is just fitting in pretty well. He's sleeping almost through the night. He, like I mentioned earlier, we still do a potty break, but he just does one potty break at night and then another. By the time that he needs his second one of us is awake already. So,
Wow.
And they're getting along really well with little dude. So,
that's good.
We're a big, happy, furry family again.
Yeah, that's one of the difficult things with cats is, and I assume dogs too. Like sometimes they just, when you get new ones, they don't necessarily get along with each other.
Yeah. And it's the same with dogs. It doesn't guarantee that they're going to get along, but the particular breed that we have, which is Portuguese water dogs, they're pretty gregarious to begin with. They're very friendly, and they like to meet everybody. So bringing a new one into the group is not necessarily difficult, especially if they've been well socialized. But that could be said about any dog, really. As long as they've been well socialized, they will generally accept new pups.
And it seems like they're pretty sociable dogs. But I do hear stories sometimes of dogs not accepting other dogs and stuff.
Oh yeah, that does happen, and that's why if you have a good humane society you worked with, breeder you've worked with, they're reputable. They'll take the dogs back if they're not fitting in with your house, so in with your household.
Oh, that's
so.
cool.
That's always something you want to look for when selecting puppies. If where you're getting them from, and dogs too, if where you're getting them from will take them back should something happen.
So let's see, where's everybody at? I guess I can. In a few minutes. I'm in the middle of something, and then I'll show another screen cap. Not screen cap. I'll just bring my. And anyone here, if they want to add a second screen showing their hands drawing, they can.
Is that a pencil sharpener?
Oh, you know what I think that is.
Yeah,
Is that your pencil sharpener, Tom?
Yes, it was.
We thought
was.
it was a banshee or something.
Yeah, totally. It's just like Halloween sound effect.
I mean, we thought maybe we were getting a little paranormal activity on this broadcast.
So I looked up some. Yeah, that'd be cool. Some 2-sentence horror stories from a 2-sentence horror story generator.
Ooh, that sounds really awesome.
I like this one. They delivered the mannequins and bubble wrap from the main room. I began to hear popping.
Ooh.
Ooh.
Was the shortest horror story in the world? It was supposed to be the shortest horror story in the world. Was the last man on Earth was in his room, and someone knocked at the door.
Yeah, that's pretty good too. I like that.
That is good. That is good.
Don't look behind you. It doesn't like to be seen.
Nice.
I like that.
Well, I guess that's the thing about horror is sometimes it there is nobody. What is it? It was the thing in space. No one can hear you scream on.
Yeah.
Or once you're gone if no one sees you.
Yeah. Working the night shift alone tonight. There's a face in the cellar staring at the security camera.
Ooh, that is a scary one.
Yeah. This one I've heard before in different variations. There's a girl standing outside my window. The only problem is I live on the 7th floor.
Ooh.
That's an actual ghost story I've heard from Gettysburg.
Oh, really?
It's called The Blue Boy. And I think it's Gettysburg College. I'm sure we'll get corrected, but I thought it was Gettysburg College. They have a girls' dormitory that is 3 floors. And the ghost story is in some special rooms on the 3rd floor. At night, if you look out the window, sometimes you'll see a little boy who is tinted blue staring back at you from the other side. And the problem is that you're on the 3rd floor and there's nowhere for him to be standing.
Ooh.
So it that would be freaky. That is personally one of the things I am freaked out about, is somebody staring at me from a floor, not on the ground floor. So that and heads in toilets. Meh.
Yeah, that's why I put that. I love that sketch that you did, Tom, of the alligator in the toilet.
Yes.
Was that a prompt from one of the sketch things you do?
Oh, yeah. I can't remember what the prompt was, but yeah, it was. Yeah, yes, it was. I wish I could remember what the exact prompt was.
It felt like an urban legend to me. It had that sort of. Because there was always, what was it, the rats in the toilet kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, we have that in Hyde Park and Oakley and other parts of Cincinnati where rats will crawl through your pipes into your basement toilet.
Ooh.
Yeah.
That is a creepy.
I mean, that sort of thing actually, like with snakes and things, does happen a great deal in the South. I mean, that's a pretty common occurrence to have reptiles coming up your plumbing.
Mm-hmm. Is that something you've ever seen in South Carolina, Steve?
Rats in the toilet? No, we get snakes. So we do get snakes coming up through the plumbing, and that's no fun. Yeah.
Yeah, there's sort of a lot of people are really afraid of snakes.
No, totally.
For some reason, I don't know if it's some sort of race, or sort of like early time, like a species memory of like dangerous beasts eating you. I'm not sure. Isn't that
if you went to the whole Garden of Eden, source of evil, if you go to an Adam and Eve thing. So that's been inculcated in culture a lot.
I mean, that was one thing Carl Sagan used to say. He thought dragons were part of a species memory because there's so many in history. Of course, maybe there were dragons. I don't know.
Interesting.
Yeah, I think that was in. There's been a couple things where they've mentioned those quotes by Carl Sagan, and him saying that there might be some sort of memory of that, a species memory. I don't know. I mean, certainly predatory beasts would be.
Yeah.
Because we all have been, had to worry about. I mean, that's why being afraid of the dark was probably and you talk about urban legends and stuff like that. I mean, there was a time going out in the dark probably did mean you'd get eaten by something.
Yeah, that's why you have like Grassman and Melon Heads and all sorts of those boogeyman type characters.
Yeah, I was thinking of how your comic, Steve, says that humans taste like cheese conies.
Yeah,
that was funny.
Thank you. Definitely. It was a fun excuse to kind of pay homage to a lot of my North Carolina, Northern Kentucky and Cincinnati stomping grounds, and so definitely try to throw in as many kind of references to my time there as I could, and definitely cheese conies were definitely a part of that. So
is there an urban legend in South Carolina that you can?
Yeah, we have a very kind of. Well, I'm looking at the Crosswick snake monster here reminds me of the lizard man of Escape or Swamp, who is kind of more. I think it's more in the upstate area, but swampy area, and there have definitely been reports of some lizard creature being seen coming out of the swamp. A lot of people reporting damage to their cars with like claw marks and that kind of thing in the area. And he had a resurgence a few years ago, but it was also the footage of it seemed very suspect, like it was some person like in a giant rubber suit of some kind. But definitely he gets some play every once in a while.
I remember hearing about that from one of the paranormal shows. Like it would rip off bumpers and stuff.
Yeah, totally.
Of cars.
It did not like
cars. Whoa, so it was slightly angry.
It was, yes, it was. Well,
it's a slight anger issue.
Yes. Well, Crosswick may be a narcissist. I think the skateboard swamp guy has a little bit more anger issues going on. So.
Well, I was going to say, like in Florida, where so many people, when they get like a boa constrictor or whatever, there's been a huge problem of people like just abandoning their boa constrictors that are huge. And actually, when you think about a 30 or 40 foot snake, it sounds big, but boa constrictors are that big.
Yep.
And they said that they're eating all the raccoons in lower Florida. I mean, they're not indigenous species, so they just like are very strong predators then.
Yep.
And they kind of munch their way through raccoons and that sort of thing. That's kind of been happening here because there's so many coyotes. Like they said, the feral cat population has been there's not that many of them anymore in this area because they get eaten.
Yes.
And I suspect that happens when you bring pretty strong predators into an area where they're not supposed to be. And then for some reason they eat everything.
Yeah.
So what are you drawing, Kat?
I am working on one of these 2-sentence horror stories, and the two-sentence horror story I picked was, I woke up to hear knocking on glass. At first I thought it was the window until I heard it come from the mirror again.
Oh.
That one is scary.
Yeah. So I'm like, okay, this sounds like something that I can illustrate in just one panel. I don't need multiple panels to tell this story. So I'm just kind of doodling as we're talking about our work. So fun times.
So, and you were going to tell us some fun haunting stories too, because you've been
I
on
can.
many a ghost hunt.
Yes, I've been. So for those watching, I am a paranormal investigator and author of 2 haunted history books. So I've been all around the United States at haunted locations, investigating the strange and spooky world around us. So lots of stories. We got 20 years worth of stories to tell. So where would you like me to start?
Well, as I recall on the podcast, we were talking about your music box story, which was super creepy.
Yes.
You grew up in a very haunted house.
Yes.
And I think, is there some investigation experience? I mean, we've heard your super scary experience with Sedamsville, or Sedamsville, sorry, Sedamsville. We know how it's pronounced now. We just need to do it.
You're right.
So, what is another experience that you've had that you'd like to talk about?
I don't know. That's why I'm opening up. I'm like, pick a topic and find it, because I have 20 years worth of stories, and it's hard to there's the greatest hits, but I've already told those on the podcast. So
tell us about maybe a location or in the area where you ran into something creepy. I mean, you ran into the Sedamsville doppelganger. Have you ever had an experience like that before?
Well, no, not a doppelganger. That was a super special experience that not a lot of people run into doppelgangers to begin with, which makes them kind of the enigma of the paranormal world. As for creepy things around here, I haven't really run into too many. The only thing that pops into my mind is some rather chauvinistic ghosts that I ran into in Bellbrook, Ohio, doing a investigation of one of the old general stores. So in that case, I was in with a small team, and we were going through one of these old general stores. I don't even think it's used as a general store anymore, but the entire city of Bellbrook is really interesting because it not only is, I think, started as an agricultural town, but also found it had a lot of good mineral springs for bathing and for medicinal uses back in the 1800s. So the entire town built up from that for their mineral springs, and became well known in Ohio as a place of healing. So their little town grew quickly, and the general store building is from that era. And the man that I ran into, he was already dead. So for those of you who were curious, it was a ghost that I ran into. But oh boy, he was from the 1950s, very much a greaser, but he was a mechanic, and he actually worked in the building behind the general store that I guess had been a garage at one point. And man, he was a pistol to have to talk to. And we also, like you've seen, Christina, we were using the flashlight and dowsing rods so that we had more than one point of reference, basically, during the entire reading. And he was just really nasty, like towards all the women, commenting on how they looked, how they were dressing. He even made fun of some of the gentlemen in the room. No one was spared. He was like a terrible, terrible insult comic. So
kind of like Triumph the Insult Dog, but in human.
Yeah, but worse. The timing was terrible. Anyway, so there was that. Let's see. But I could tell you about some of the spookies that happened at some of the spookies. Oh my goodness, you can tell I've been talking to a toddler. At Mansfield Reformatory, which is also here in Ohio. And I know we haven't talked about this at all at the podcast. So, big inhale. So Mansfield Reformatory is a massive complex. It's almost 8 miles long, walking around the entire complex. That is in Mansfield, Ohio, and the Mansfield Correctional Facility is located right behind it. That's currently operating, so I would not suggest trying to trespass onto this property at all. It has a lot of very angry Canadian geese, too, who will chase you if you make them angry. So there's that. I've been there a few times, I think 3, and hey there, Mickey. I think we may get another special guest. Come on, Mickey. It's okay. So Mansfield was built in around 1896, I believe. And you can come in, Mickey. And the first inmates there had to actually build the building. They had to dig the trenches for the sewage. They had to actually make the bricks themselves. And it has the record for having the largest freestanding steel cell block in the world, which is 7 stories. I believe that's in the east cell block. And it has a 6-storied one on the west side. And it's also very well known for the Shawshank Redemption being filmed there back in the 90s. So if you've seen that movie, you have seen the inside of Mansfield Reformatory. It was not a prison. A lot of people accidentally confuse it with the now demolished Ohio State Penitentiary, which was a prison. No one was put to death at Mansfield on purpose. There were deaths there, there were accidents, and there were, of course, murders. There were several murders. And it was actually mostly used for juveniles who had broken the law. So it had, at one point, a large complex. It had a gymnasium, it had a high school, it had a trade school, and the entire point was the kids that found themselves there would be rehabilitated and released back into society with a trade so they could be contributing to society. Eventually, as time went on and you got more crowded prisons, some higher risk prisoners were brought in, but you're looking at like the 70s and 80s for that. And it was eventually closed. And then in the mid 90s, it's until today, it's been used mostly as a backdrop for different places and for historical tours. So Shawshank, a lot of different music videos have been filmed there. One of the prison cells is painted gold for a music video that happened, I think, in the early aughts. Yeah, you name it. Like, I think every metal band has had at least one music video filmed there. I mean, it has great ambiance, and they're a great team. They've always been really nice whenever I visited. And now I can walk around the entire grounds basically without a flashlight and know where I'm at.
Wow.
So, and then that's also where Igor the Bat used to live. I am pretty sure he has passed away by now, because I don't know how long bats live, but this happened like a decade ago. So, fun bat story was I was walking through the Mansfield Reformatory from the bullpen to the front door. I was actually helping other ghost hunters that were there for an event out of the building to their car so they can go home. It was around 3 or 4 a.m. And I'm walking back from the front door, going through the intake and getting to the bullpen, which is where they call... That's where they have the restrooms and refreshments and an actual mini kitchen so that you can kind of relax for a few minutes. And it's always lit. And it's usually the headquarters whenever you're doing a ghost hunt there or a tour. And you have to walk through what was the old intake rooms for any new prisoner of the reformatory. And there are ghosts associated. There's ghosts everywhere in this place. The showers, intake, the bullpen, the attics where there used to be the infirmary. There is this old cemetery. It's now a graveyard that is located on the property, but it's behind the active prison. So you really don't go there too often. But ghosts have been seen there. And so... I'm walking through and I could hear a squeak, and you know that squeak of a bat coming towards you. And Igor, who was the resident bat of that particular area, swoops down at me, and its wing glances my lips and my face as it flies by.
Ooh.
So, yeah.
Wow.
That's not paranormal, but man, was that creepy. It's one thing that I
sure.
don't like is wildlife coming for my head. So, I mean, I think a lot of people
Or
would
your
agree
mouth.
with me on that. Yeah. So medical attention was sought. I am okay. This happened a decade ago. So, but yeah, it was not great. I love bats, but not like that. On a more paranormal note, so in an investigation in 2012, I was there with a team, and we were actually on our way down to the old solitary cells from the there's I believe 2 different sets of solitary. These are the old ones, lovingly called the hole, and they are in the basement, and they're not always open for tours because depending on the weather and if it's rained a lot stuff, it could be really gross down there. There is a lot of mold. If you have allergies, you will react in this building, as well as a lot of these older buildings, because it's huge. They can't keep it clean all the time, and there's a lot of dust. There are mice, and there's mold. So we're going down the stairs, the team and I'm the first one going down, and there are, I think, 2 or 3 different spirits who are said to haunt the hole. And a lot of people get out. They get a lot of male voices, very angry voices when you do an electric voice phenomena recording or an EVP. I take one step to go into this cellar, and we hear this come from the basement. And my mom was in the team with me, and she had the best reaction, which was, "Oh, Kate, don't go down there." I looked at my mom, I'm like, of course I'm going down there now. They basically invited me. So, like, there was no reason for a growl that size. It sounded like a large cat should have been in the basement of this facility. There's just bats and mice there, and maybe the occasional rat. There is not anything large. So we went down there, and of course, after that, really nothing happened. But it was heard by an entire team of people, about 10. So that put everyone on the edge of their seats. That's one story from there. Christina, you're muted.
I know. Troy was talking to me, so I muted so you wouldn't have to hear him talking to me.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, I mean, you know, so when you're doing a ghost hunt like that, if you don't get anything, though, people would probably be disappointed.
Yeah, it depends on the group you're with. So there have been large locations I've been to where absolutely nothing happened. And that's fine. Like, once you've been in the field enough, you know that the ghosts, the dead, don't play on request. They'll show up when they want to. It's kind of like pets and small children. They're just like, yeah, if I don't feel like showing up today, I'm not going to do it.
Yeah.
And I've taken, like I said, I've been there 3 times, and I have only a handful of stories, and I was there for multiple hours every time, close to 12 hours. And
so
but speaking of
what is the source of the haunting there? I mean, you said it wasn't really a prison; it was but I mean, I suppose if it was a reformatory for juveniles, it probably had more angst.
There's a lot of trauma. There's a lot of trauma there, and you're looking at over 100 years of trauma from the kids for being incarcerated, of the guards not exactly being the sweetest people in the world. There were murders that happened there. There was death that happened there. There is a cemetery, and the people that make up that graveyard are former inmates whose families never picked them up. They died of illness. Yet TB was a thing. I don't think malaria so much, but cholera, different flus would go through and kill people. You're looking at a time period of 1890s up into the basically, I think it closed in 1989. So almost 100 years. I think I said it over, but almost 100 years of activity. You did have murders as well. You had inmates who killed themselves and each other. And there was a lot of chronic overpopulation. What's up, Don?
Oh, I was going to say, if all you need is teen angst to cause hauntings, our house is going to be
Nice.
wealth of haunting our house after 4 kids.
Yeah. Yeah,
lots of
exactly. Yeah.
I'm curious,
I mean, like,
Kat, so can anybody like hear ghosts, or are some people more, inclined to be receptive to that sort of thing? So, like, if you had a room of 10 people there, is everybody hear if there is an actual recorded? Will everybody hear it, or will some people just go like, "What are you guys acting to?" type thing?
Oh yeah, that's very common. So people who can hear voices, especially as kind of like a psychic, are known as clairaudient versus clairvoyant, which is clear vision. And it's common to hear voices, and they can single people out. There is a phenomenon known as a calling ghost, which in multiple cultures is heavily warned against following, and they will say your name. And they'll give you details about your life, and you start following them, and then it could be to your death. They're not great entities to run into. Yeah, it's really common at an
I guess
investigation.
the question is though, like if there are 10 people in the room and the actual auditor, some people are going to be more sensitive to it, will hear it, and other people will just be like, have no idea that an event just occurred around them.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
And that's why there's
interesting
equipment that's used, like the Ovilus, which has been used a lot by teams, and that actually picks up signals. This goes back to Christina. You talked about cell phone signals. Mm-hmm. When you're actually on an investigation, you're not supposed to have your cell phone on you because they will buzz different frequencies, which can set off your equipment, the electric fields of your equipment. So an Ovilus is supposed to pick up on a lot of these electric frequencies. It assigns random numeric via programming codes to each one of these frequencies, which assigns a word, and then you can pick up actual words of ghosts using an Ovilus. And you can get them saying, hey, and this is different than the one that flips through all the different radio stations, and through white noise you hear words coming through, which is also quite popular. This one will actually come up with words. And actually you saw one of those used when we were at the Cincinnati Observatory. They were using one in the main observatory room. And it will come up with random words.
I think that it does definitely feel like some people are, I'm not that sensitive at all. And so I've not really seen anything short of the electronic stuff where we see the lights, coming on and off. But
yeah,
I have not seen a lot yet.
Yeah, and that's why those get used, is so that people who, and I'm going to say probably most people aren't that sensitive. That makes it sound rather gatekeepy. So sorry, that came out wrong. But I think the average person isn't paying attention enough to the surroundings to really notice when something pops up. That's why whenever we're at an investigation, I say, if something pops into your mind, like a random question or a thought that is not exactly in line with your normal thinking, a lot of times that's the dead talking to you through a mediumship way. And like, people will ask questions and I'll just get random yes or no pop into my head. And it's just like, well, that probably is the dead talking to me, responding to the questions. And Christina's seen them. I'll sit there and say yes or no as the dowsing rods are crossing yes or no, or the flashlight is flashing yes or no. So
sometimes we think it's kind of like, in Beetlejuice, where they said the living won't see the dead, like it's a choice. I think there is some of that too. it's sort of a relic of your sanity to not. I mean, some of the stuff people have, if you weren't expecting it, like some of the mediums that have come on our show had said, they see faces in front of them all the time and stuff. I mean, I'm not sure I want to see that.
Oh, that's annoying.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, if you had never seen it before, that's not like a very comforting thing to like see randos like show up that you don't know.
Yeah, that is very annoying, and it's one of the common, if you are a spirit medium and you're starting to see shadow people show up, faces show up, like if you're not sleeping and then wake up, you're just walking down the street and maybe somebody will just manifest in front of you, like as you're passing by them, and then they disappear. That's what I'm talking about, like faces showing up in front of you. Yeah, that you may be psychic if that is happening.
Yeah, if you're starting to see a lot of people come around, and I mean I don't know, how much research has been done on that sort of thing.
Not enough. There used to be a psychic research department. I think it was. There's been a few at different colleges, but a lot of them have been closed down by now. Lloyd Auerbach is one of the foremost researchers of the psychic phenomena, basically, in the paranormal. And he used to be in one of those departments, but the name of the university escapes me right now. But I know I've said this on the podcast many times. The psychologists and physicists are going to figure out what's actually going on. There are days where I'm sitting here going, I'm just certifiably nuts. I think I'm nuts. But I will say none of the spirits that have ever popped into my head have ever been self-harming or negative in any form. So, yeah.
I mean, I think it's interesting, to hear the stories, and a lot of people are uncomfortable, talking about their stories. Maybe that's why, there is such a love for all things Halloween and stuff, because it's a time to talk about these things.
Yeah, what's fun is that it's actually quite common. Like, I am very open about talking about the weird things I've seen in the world, because I find that once somebody has been like, it's fine and it's normal, then other people will say, well, when I was little, I would see my grandmother sitting on my bed, or I would see my cat walking around the kitchen when it had passed away 3 years ago. And it's small. The paranormal is very mundane. It's not going to be all your music boxes going off at one time. That was a weird situation that never happened to me again. It's not because I threw all my music boxes away, but at all. But I haven't had that kind of large-scale poltergeist activity ever happen in our house again. We did have fun story when I was dating my husband over a decade ago. He was at the house, and we had fallen asleep on the couch watching Jay Leno. And at 1 a.m., it sounded like every single pot and pan had crashed out of the kitchen, which was right next to the living room. It was an open concept. So we wake up immediately. We're like, what is this going on? And we look around the kitchen, and everything is accounted for and stored properly. None of the pans were amiss. The cats were not anywhere near the kitchen, because I had 2 cats at the time. Everything was accounted for. And talking to my mom later, she's like, oh, yeah. So your grandfather had a curfew of 1 a.m. for your father and I when we were dating back in the 60s. And what he would do is chase your father out of our house by banging a pot with a wooden spoon. And we're like, oh, well, that's an interesting little family story, because Grandpa must have done this by just making the sound of every single pot crash in the kitchen. It was
That's
the
funny
only time.
I know of somebody, and I've been trying to get them to give this story for our podcast, but I know of another person who had a judgmental ghost when she had her boyfriend staying over. I've heard a couple
Judgmental
of
ghosts are fun because they make themselves very well known.
Yeah, well, that's what she said. Like they got yelled at by someone.
Yep.
And she's been
I've
a
been
little
told-
bit reluctant to talk about it. Maybe she feels. I think some people are nervous when they have experiences like that.
There's a lot of stigma against seeing or experiencing anything from the spirit world. There's especially in such a science-based society that we have, which is fine. I like that. I like the science. But people do have weird experiences, and if you're more open about it, maybe we could figure out slightly faster what are we encountering. Like there's a lot of similar stories all around the world that has been recorded for generations, basically. Strange stories in humans seem to be having the same type of recurrences. Like deathbed apparitions have been reported for centuries. I know a lot of old recordings from like the 16 and 1700s of seeing people show up at the end of your bed. It's happened to me before. There's just ghost stories from ancient Japan, like all over. You're getting people have been seeing ghosts since people have been living.
Yeah. It is. I think that's the thing that's so interesting is the ubiquitous quality of a lot of these stories. And a lot of similar. I mean, you were talking about like some of the Japanese folklore and how similar it is to some, Celtic folklore, European folklore. There's a lot of similar traits.
Yes. I just got coffee delivery.
Oh, nice.
Ah, that feels better. Yeah, you do. Corpse candles are a really good topic of shared death apparitions, basically. The Willow Wisps, I mean, it ties right back into Stingy Jack and Jack-o'-lanterns again. Swamp gas, as it's very lovingly called. I love that one, swamp gas. Just seeing basically the self-illuminating orbs that are representations of the dead is very common and has been reported for, it feels like eons now. We call them corpse candles. Willow wisps are really popular. In Japanese, they're called hitodama or kitsune, like kitsubi, which means like foxfire. Because a kitsune is a not just a fox, but it is a paranormal fox that is able to shapeshift. So,
interesting.
Yeah, Japanese ghost stories and monster stories, yokai, have a long history of shape-shifting animals. Foxes, raccoons, tanuki, and I just forgot the third one. They all love to shapeshift. And cats. Nickel will shapeshift, and they all have those abilities. And those are a lot of the ghost stories. They're all varieties of what's called yokai, which are monsters, basically.
So let's do a sketch check. Where is everybody on their stuff? Let's see what Tom and... See, this is your...
Ooh.
Oh, look, and there's Mothman.
Yeah.
I decided to kind of go. What's that?
So far.
What are we looking at? Oh, that's adorable. Can you get closer to the camera, Steve?
Yep. So in my story,
Yeah.
So my story, he's like it's like a support group for cryptids, and he's kind of like the leader, so moderator.
It seems like the Mothman would be the leader. I mean,
it's like it, right?
To be honest,
probably the most helpful potentially. So,
which is funny because he took out this.
Oh, very nice. Well, I got inspired by the Crosswick.
Oh, nice.
Oh, cool. Let's see. Oh,
Oop.
you froze for just a second.
Wait a minute. Let me
Yeah.
go the right way. There we go.
Ooh,
Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
I like
is
that.
Awesome.
That's great.
That's really wonderful. Doing
Very
watercolor and everything. And I'm working on my
Nice.
digital. I can show this is what I'm working on. I've got stuff locked in, and I'm starting to do my
Oh, very nice.
angsty flapper. So,
Ah,
Oh,
angsty
nice.
flapper. I like that.
yeah.
Mine,
Excellent.
I don't have much because I've been talking.
No, you're talking, yeah.
Got 2 circles.
Hey,
Nice.
it starts with a circle.
That's right.
Everything starts with a circle.
I don't know. That's probably not true, but I just thought I'd say it.
Though I do like, personally, I like using squares if I'm doing drawings of heads to teach people how to draw. I use squares instead of circles. I know it's blasphemy, but that's just the way I roll.
Is there really? I mean, blasphemy. Let's be honest. I mean, at least when it comes to art. I mean, I suppose there is. It depends who you subscribe to as your who you are.
What was supposed to be blasphemous, Kat?
Oh, I use for guides when you're doing the wire guides for humans. I tend to use squares instead of circles.
Okay.
And that's just for the framing, and that's just the way I've rolled. So,
hey, if it works, it works. Who cares?
That's right.
yep, exactly. So,
Yeah, I just thought I'd do a digital painting demo just for fun. I don't know why. I'm actually going to be working on a watercolor illustration that's due tomorrow. So,
oh wow,
yeah, but not on here. I like working a bunch of different type of media. I've been really into, since I got my new Cintiq last year, I've been really having so much fun drawing on it. I love it. I never get tired of it. Are you still using the Cintiq my old Cintiq, Tom? Does it still work?
Well, I've had so much trouble with that getting it to interface with my PC. I don't know, not what I'm doing. So what I was going to do was I also bought myself a Weon screen.
Oh yeah.
And going to pass and was going to bring it back and see if we could find another person who might have better luck with it, because it's like I know it's really good. Operator error that I'm doing something stupid, but in the meantime, yeah, I've been using that instead. So you need to get that passed along to somebody.
It is so old that it could genuinely be that I'm not even sure it uses a USB port, does it? It might even be, if it is USB, it's super old USB. And sometimes that stuff just stops working with the newer stuff. And it could just be that.
Yeah, it seems.
I was shocked actually when it's
having
still
trouble getting it to interface properly and things. Yeah. So, but
Yeah,
maybe we can
sometimes
still at least give it to somebody who at least let somebody else give it another try. And again, in case it's operator error on my part, give it a try.
I doubt it.
So,
I doubt that it's operator error. I think it's more that it's just ancient. It's old. They don't.
I have no problem. I'm not a Luddite at all, but I just, if I have a choice of doing digital or, traditional sort of media, I just sort of still tend to draw on paper and stuff, although I've been getting, better at it with the Weon, or I'm not sure how you pronounce that, but getting better with it. But, yeah, there you go. That was very lucid.
Well,
when I come back as a ghost, there people are going to go like, what was he saying?
I think that any way that you want to do it is valid. I was just in the mood to draw digitally today, but I also like to go out and urban sketch, and I was just sketching manatees with my new gouache set on Friday. So it just depends on what you feel like working with at that time.
Yeah, well, the nice thing is, I know that you're versatile in both worlds and stuff. It's unfortunate getting some of the people, like actually at Upstream, there's people there, who just, some people have a very difficult time going from the digital back to, say, more traditional drawing skills. like on paper, and because they find it so uncomfortable, it really inhibits their ability to get a lot of freelance work. Because a lot of people don't want to be. They want to see it on paper. They want to hold it in their hands right there, right then. And have always been encouraging people that, digital is absolutely great, has its place, but there can be times you want to be able to draw on paper and be comfortable with it.
I think both are good. I mean, I think that
Oh, I agree. Absolutely.
Yeah, I think it
I
just
agree.
depends on what you want to. I think that both are valid, and I like both of them for different reasons, I suppose. I love going out and sitting outside and doing plein air art and sketching in my sketchbook and that sort of thing, and I don't think that ever goes away.
Nope. Of course,
But,
plein air art digitally. just as easily.
There's a lot of people that use their iPads to do plein air stuff
Sure.
or any type of drawing. They just released a new Procreate. They just released a new version of Procreate. I'm sure a lot of people are super excited about that. That's going to have more 3D kind of stuff. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
I find myself for illustration doing more and more digital because, although I do have a project I'm going to do all traditional that I'm working on too. But the one thing when you work traditional is that it takes, nothing is there are no shortcuts. I think that's the thing when anybody takes up a new medium or whatever, they think there's going to be shortcuts, and there are none. There are no shortcuts. Sad to say, if you do digital, it's going to be just as agonizing as doing traditional. The problem with digital, you just have different issues. So when you scan in your artwork that you do traditionally, you have a lot more color correction to do because a lot of paints are out of gamut. So you have to basically balance your work so it looks as good as it does in person. If you've ever scanned in a painting and said, is that beautiful color of blue or green gone? It's because that color is not scannable. And so you have to go back in and fix that color and make it look good.
Yep.
And so that's, the biggest thing. We're all illustrators, and, no matter what we do it on, even if we wanted to do it, you could do illustration in any media on any kind of thing, but at the end, you have to give whoever your client is a digital file. So if you decide you want to do giant spray paint things for your illustration, you're going to have to find a way to photograph them and get them digitally so that they can be printed.
Sure, absolutely.
And that's
my comment was not whether the validity of any particular medium, but just that making sure that it just for their own good, that they have a better chance of, if they want to go into, because people I run into when we're doing, and this brainstorm sessions where you're sitting in a room with 20, sometimes 40 people, and you're drawing things, and that's when the whole more traditional methods come into play, and just wanting people to be versatile enough,
like that.
Not to eschew digital, but just also have that in their their capabilities, so they can be making a good living.
I think I've actually seen more of a problem with people not being digitally versatile than people being able to draw.
Really? See, I'm seeing exact opposite. That's very interesting.
I've seen a lot of people that just, I think that the lesson that you should take away is not to eschew either or, but to get good at both. Nothing beats a good foundation of drawing and being able to draw when there's no computer around. But you're going to have a really short illustration career if you don't know how to use Photoshop or some sort of digital program at all, because there are almost no paths.
By the way, I met Mary, by the way, at Upstream, one of your proteges.
Oh, that's
and
great.
Really
that's
nice.
Great.
Very nice. A real nice person.
Yeah, that's cool. There's a lot of great people that work there. Oh, Kat is mute. She must have run out of the room. Oh, you're muted. You're muted.
I'm just quietly drawing right now.
Ooh, let's see where you are. And
Well,
and I
working on an antique mirror, so there we go. That's all I've got so far is a mirror and a dude's head, and that's it.
Tell us a little bit about the lore with mirrors. Like when we went to the Benny Hoffen house, they had it all done in wake style.
They were.
I didn't even know there was such a thing as wake style, but there is.
Oh yeah, Victorians love death. Oh my goodness,
they had a lot of culture informed by the Victorians.
Yeah, they saw a lot of death during that era, and it depends on which part of the Victorian era, because it is broken up into different segments. There's the young Victorian, there's late Victorian, and then there's middle. And at the time, they were just getting the handle of germ theory and really inoculating lots of people. TB was going mad in the late Victorian era. People were dropping left and right from it. You also had yellow fever, scarlet fever, pox of different sorts, all going through the populations. So you still had to have, even in the 19th century, large families, because there was no guarantee everyone was going to survive to adulthood. And Queen Victoria was still a good example of that. I don't believe all of her children survived to adulthood either. Mm-hmm. And so you have a lot of memento mori, which are the little remembrance charms, bracelets, paintings, hair wreaths, hair rings that were all woven of deceased loved ones. If you had death paintings and then later death photography, just a lot of that growing along with the Industrial Revolution. So it made it for a very interesting culture. And that's why I think a lot of people like looking back at it. With mirrors, there's always been a lot of superstitions. Not everyone was able to get mirrors when they were first produced. Only the extremely wealthy and aristocracies had mirrors. That's why the palace, the Hall of Mirrors at Versailles is so amazing, because not only is it just a wonderful work of architecture, but not everyone got a mirror. And then suddenly there's a king that has an entire hall full of them. They're spooky. A lot of people, like myself, don't really like looking at reflections in mirrors. I don't actually keep a lot of mirrors in my own house because I find it really off-putting.
Well, it's interesting to think if you had not been around mirrors your whole life and then suddenly you saw them. It would be very scary. Like if you didn't know, I mean, I suppose you could make it say it's analogous to if you're not used to seeing faces in the middle of the night, how scary that is. Like
exactly.
If I suddenly woke up and saw faces floating in front of me, I would be pretty freaked out. And if you had never been around mirrors and then all of a sudden you're around mirrors all the time and you didn't really know how mirrors work, you'd be like, this is really strange.
Yeah. So what would be done in a lot of families, and I'm looking at this from mostly a British-Irish perspective, was that there was a thought that spirits could travel through mirrors, and at one's death, somebody could get either stuck in a mirror or the dead could travel through the mirrors into the house and cause more plague. So mirrors were covered up, and it started with the wealthy doing black cloth over the mirrors. It doesn't have to be black cloth. It could be anything really to prevent the reflection from happening. And I know growing up in Amish country, even the Amish don't use mirrors, and a lot of their dolls don't have faces for that reason. And it will freak people out if you don't know that.
Having a face with a doll with a face.
Yeah, they don't put faces on there. And also by extension, there was people who thought that photography would steal your soul. And when photography was becoming a thing, that was also a concern. So people wouldn't
I suppose you could argue in the selfie era that maybe it does steal your soul.
Touche. Maybe a different part of your soul, but
valid point.
Maybe.
Just saying.
Just throwing it out there.
there. Yeah.
Yeah, just you could be. You start getting with narcissists.
Mhm.
Narcissist
Oh my
is
gosh.
the story. Hmm?
Matt, I'm sorry to interrupt, but it's 3:44 and you have to be on television.
I do have to be on television. I
You
was
have
going
be
to.
on real television. So Kat is going to be leaving us to be on WCPO and talk about our comic.
Oh, that's
and I
awesome.
think Steve is leaving too. So it
Yeah,
just
I
might
gotta
be
jump off as
me
well.
and Tom drawing for the last hour and talking about. I think you know what, Tom. We should talk about UFOs because that's something
Yeah,
we
there you
don't talk
go.
enough about. Is that kind of thing? And we've been wanting to do some shows on. We've been wanting to do some shows on maybe UFO experiences and people.
Yeah.
I've not actually because I've been drawing. I've not even been seeing if anyone had any comments. If you've had a paranormal
I have-
experience or some sort of other experience, please put it in the comments and I'll read it. We've got about 4 people watching now. So if anyone's, hi, Katie. And Katie just said good luck. If you've had anything that you've ever seen that's weird, besides what you're watching now.
Oh, it is Katie. Hey there, Katie.
So, yeah, we better
Yeah.
let Kat go. And Steve,
I'm
you wanna
going
show your
to hop
drawings?
off,
Yeah, I'll
but
jump
maybe
off. So
back. We'll see how long this interview is. The
what we're
spectrum.
able to
Ooh,
do.
those look nice.
Here's
Yeah, you're
Klaus
going to be
Wick.
on CPO. Yeah, as a matter of fact, that one that you've done of the I know that I bought one of your sketches through the Kickstarter, and I kind of
Oh,
want
yeah?
that one if you're selling it. The one
Which
at the
one?
bottom of the Crosswick snake.
Okay, cool. Yep.
Is that
Nice.
one
Yours.
that I could have? Oh,
Of
cool.
course.
So, because I did.
Well, thank you
I
very
have-
much. I'm honored.
Yeah. So, excellent. I want that one.
Oh,
So
thank
you
Oh,
don't have
nice.
any more
Perfect.
work to do for it. You've got it.
Awesome.
I
Good
like
job.
it a lot. Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
cool.
Multitasking. All right.
Exactly.
I'm
So
gonna
we'll-
hop off, but I may be back depending on how long this interview will be.
okay, I will remove you from the stream.
Goodbye. I'm being
Nice.
removed.
See everybody.
And are you taking off too, Steve? Do you want to
Yeah,
show
I'll take
your
off as
drawings
well.
again?
Yep, one last time. This is yours, Christina.
Oh
Crosswick
yay! I
snake.
can't wait to.
There
Hey,
you go.
it's such. I love your style.
Well, thank
Like,
you.
really great stuff.
And then here's Mothman from the same story. There we
Nice,
are.
nice.
Cool. Well, thank you
So-
so much. This is awesome. This is a blast.
Yeah. And let's see, I'm going to remove you. So we'll talk to you soon. Thanks, Steve.
Sounds good. Thanks. See ya.
So it's just you and me, Tom. So I think I can even put my screen on here so people can see the live draw. And then I can make, so this is how it's going to go here. So I'm going to continue working on my flapper.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, where am I?
So what
right
is
now?
this? What is the story of the flapper?
Okay,
Can
so
you, like,
and
do a
Kat
real
has
quick-
left. So
You want
so she
something out?
can't. The flapper story is, and let me get the whole thing in here. The flapper story is from Kat's Sorg comic, where she was doing a paranormal investigation at the Sorg, which is a building which I hope to sketch someday. We've been talking to the urban sketchers in Dayton about doing some sort of joint because it's in Middletown, and we'd like to do some sort of joint sketching
Okay.
event up there. The Sorg Opera House is designed by the architect that did Music Hall and did, our City Hall, Hannaford. And that is the right name,
Okay.
right, Hannaford? Let me look it up. I think it is. I always get his name wrong for some reason. My brain has imprinted it in the wrong way. I don't know if you've ever had that happen where your brain has the wrong name of something, and no matter how many times you look it up, your brain always goes back to the wrong thing.
Yeah, but yeah, that's
And that's my
happened.
brain most of the time. I think it is Hannaford, though. Ford. Yeah, his name was Samuel Hannaford. And he is who designed the Sorg Opera House. And so when she, and there's also a mansion there too, which I don't think you can go into, like, I don't think it's open for the public, but she did and we did have an episode about her visit to the Sorg and the investigation, and she saw a woman going up the stairs that was in full flapper attire, which would have been, probably something you would have seen in a theater in the 20s. And only she was partially translucent. So, as I get further down on the drawing that I'm doing, I will make her translucent. But I have to finish
Nice.
drawing her first too. So I've got a reference sheet up here of a bunch of different costume details from the 20s. we're in the 20s
True.
now, so we're going through our roaring 20s, and one has to wonder how similar they were to their roaring 20s. It's interesting because
well, there is a
yeah. I mean, it's kind of interesting thinking my grandmother was around during that time, and I just love looking into fashion and a lot of the stuff that we've talked about on our podcast. Like, for example, we talked a lot about the spiritualism movement, and a lot of that was inspired by in the late 1800s, but it continued through the 20s. Using spirit boards, talking boards was really popular. Like, for example, like what call Ouija board, because so many people lost relatives in the wars. Not just the Civil War, and then later, World War I, World War II. They wanted to talk to their relatives, and so spirit boards became extremely popular. And I don't think there was as much of a fear of them, because now you have all these movies like that really scare people about this sort of thing. And so I think that's kind of what.
So is a talking board essentially a Ouija board? A Ouija board is a talking board.
Ouija board is branded by Milton Bradley. I don't know exactly what all the copyright stuff is, but the Ouija board is there. I don't know if it's in public domain, but it definitely was owned by Milton Bradley at some point. I'm not sure if it's trademarked. They would probably still own it, right? Trademarks have a slightly different.
Yeah, but that is an example of what would be a talking.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Cool. There are all kinds of. I mean, it's been something that's been around for a long time. I mean, you could picture it as a very low-tech, popular thing that people were, wanting to communicate to relatives and dead friends and stuff. Like Kat was saying, death was a fascination in the Victorian era. Although I would say it's probably always been a fashion, something that people are into in every era. It seems like the Victorian era gets a lot of attention, and that could be possibly because of, it was an era of the Industrial Revolution, and you had a lot more of, what would you say, middle classes getting access to things that, like we were talking about mirrors and how unusual it was for King Louis, the 14th to have a mirror, and stuff like that was being manufactured by the time of the Victorian era. And so perhaps that's why there's more of a fascination, because more people had access to things that they didn't have access to before. And maybe that's part of the explanation. But a lot of people were into doing seances, and that's where. Oh, let's see your piece here.
Yeah, I think let's move on to something else. There we go.
Oh yeah, let's see. Oh, that's really cool. Nice.
There we go.
That is really cool.
Yeah. Thanks.
Now that is a.
I haven't used it before. I broke those.
There's something about that has a layer of the white worm sort of vibe to it too.
That's a good thing. That is probably the nuttiest Ken Russell movie ever made.
Which actually you can watch right now. I think it's on Amazon Prime.
It's available on one of the streaming services right now.
And it's a great way to watch Peter Capaldi and Hugh Grant with when they had plentiful hair. I mean, they actually have always had hair, but like more plentiful, and they look very young. They're about the same age. But you're getting very cool from. I'll answer the comments here, because things might get a little bit quiet here as we're drawing. We don't have Kat. Kat might be back. She's actually right now, as we speak, being interviewed by WCPO about the comic, and I think she's going to be. Hopefully, she'll find out when. Hopefully, she'll find out when she gets back if it's going to be on tonight at 11 too. I think it's going to be on all the news cycles. So we're very, very thankful to all the different news outlets this time that have profiled our comic. Like I said, we hope to do this every year and eventually have a In 5 years, we'd love to have a softcover edition that collects all the stories we've done so far. An omnibus edition.
Cool. Here.
Or something. Maybe we'll come up with a better name than that. But yeah. Oh, that's kind of interesting. When I did an answer, it answered on both YouTube and on Facebook. That's kind of interesting. I've never streamed to both of them before. So,
so had a UFO experience yourself?
Have I? No, I have not. So, but you had some. What is? You said you've seen. I mean, we're close to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. So, one thing that was interesting a couple of years ago, I visited. Oh, go on.
You're kind of breaking up. We have were actually. Oh, okay, is it any better yet? The experiences we had actually were one in Columbus, and those were out in California, where there just seemed like to be a propensity of just weird lights and things. And, mine are definitely classified as UFOs in the sense that novelers don't know what they were, but it was definitely just odd thing. I mean, we were at a drive. I think we took the kids to go see Cats versus Dogs at a drive-in in Fresno. Mm-hmm. And we just had these two red lights go over us. My mom and dad were both pilots, hung out a lot at airports, familiar with, the different lightings on, aircraft and things, the red, the green, the strobes, the rotating beacons and all that. And no white lights, which you would normally have at least a strobe, your red, port and your green light on the wings. These were just two red lights that did not appear to be connected, and disappeared in the distance. And this was well before drone days, because this would have been like 2002 or so. So there weren't anybody out there with drones and the like. Military drones, of course, at that time already. But I think we both watched it disappear off into the distance, and no sound. A lot of people get above us. We have no idea how much above us it was. It was just above us. It could have been 100 feet and, a mile up. There was no real reliable way to tell. But
and there was no sound?
Other things. What's that?
There was no sound either. You just saw the lights.
No sound. The drive-in with, Cats versus Dogs playing, in the speaker of our car, but nothing that you would expect, we're on the approach here to both Lunken and CV, and, kind of used to hear, what planes are going to be sounding like. The other thing we had happen there were, we had at one of the grocery stores, either Ralph's or Vaughn's out there, and Barb was inside the grocery store, and I noticed this distinct white dot up in the sky. And if you know where to look, especially in California skies where they're just so incredibly clear, you know where to look. Sometimes you can actually see stars during the day. So I'm looking at this and wondering, what am I seeing here? And we had a car that had a roll bar on at the time, a 4Runner. Placed my head against the roll bar so I would have a steady view, because a celestial object, it's obviously going to move because of the rotation of the Earth. And whatever this was, stayed exactly where it was. I propped my head, I lined it up with, another object, just stay there. Barb came out, and two exchange students we had pointed it out to them. They saw, no idea what it might have been. I mean, the only thing that possibly in the Central Valley and down by Bakersfield and up over through the Tehachapi Pass was, and they did a lot, of course, all sorts of testing there, including long distance drone flights at the time. They were cutting drones at that time. In fact, shortly thereafter, they sent a drone from autonomously all the way to Australia. And these things are built so they can't, unless like a bird, do what's called wave gliding. You pick up a wave of air and you can just set as if it's a river. And so don't know because a lot of people go, oh yeah, the military, Well, they picture these things that people take, and you see they throw them up in the air and they fly around. You see the Hellfire missiles and the like in Afghanistan and places like that. They're the size of a World War II 5. I mean, these things are big. So it's not inconceivable if this were something like that, high altitude, it would have been spottable. So, but again,
Oh, that's pretty weird.
yeah, I don't know if it falls under the classification of a unidentified flying object of some sort. So,
well, I mean, you don't know what it was, and you saw it, so I think it definitely counts as that. Whether
classic UFO.
I mean, and in California, you are close to a lot of propulsion labs and stuff too. So, obviously, you never know. I mean, I believe, and Troy always corrects me on this, but you might remember this lore about the reason why Steven Spielberg made Close Encounters was because of seeing a lot of strange lights when they were filming Jaws. Did you ever hear those stories? And you could actually see on some of the footage, like some strange lights and stuff. Whether it was, some propulsion lab or what. If you do research, I don't know if you're Google. Is there something coming up on Google? Yeah, there was some sort of, and it kind of inspired him to make.
Now changed the name. They've changed the name from UFOs to UAPs now, Find Aerial Phenomenon. No idea why they decided to make that change, unless there was just too much psychological and societal baggage associated with UFO. Decided to rebrand it, I guess.
Everybody's rebranding. Facebook's rebranding, and UFOs are rebranding. I guess everybody feels like they need to have a fresh start. Whether that will do them any good, it's hard to say.
I mean, and it's certainly this new stuff that's coming out with, the military gun count like that. Some really fascinating stuff. My brother made one day that, he said, with all these pictures that people take, of clear events happening, why is there stuff that looks so shaky and all? But I pointed out to him that those gun cameras are meant to different kind of data. They're really not for visual data. If you see all those numbers down the side, when you see the tic-tac video and things like that, they're picking up a tremendous amount of data that's visually related. So, so you kind of have to forgive them.
So you're talking about some of the video that they were showing. Some of the video they've been showing recently of that kind of phenomenon? Is that kind of what you're referring to? Like some of the pilots?
Oh, yeah. I mean, just tons of stuff, especially the Navy, because a lot of it seems to be, originating and occurring out to sea for whatever reason. They've found medium vehicles, that go directly from in the air into the water and stuff at speeds no one seems to be able to rationally explain how they could do that. So there's definitely some kind of curious stuff. Is it extraterrestrial? Is it the Chinese just got done testing hypersonic missile.
I just saw that.
Wonderful.
Yeah. Oh, thanks. It's got a long way to go. I'm talking too much.
Yeah.
The big challenge
are you using a figure reference that you're referring to while doing this, or are you just making this up, or?
I've got several when I do something like this that I'm sketching, I usually put together a reference sheet of different types of costumes and poses and stuff, and kind of combine a bunch of stuff. You probably do too, to get sort of the look that I'm looking for. It's part of, and then I kind of am using a background that really is at the Sorg, and I will make her translucent last. I'm still kind of working on this part, and then I will eventually hide the sketch that's underneath it. So I kind of did the sketch first, and then I'm working on drawing everything. And I've kind of figured out she's doing, the most simple flapper dress that, is pretty well known from that era. But they had a lot of different types of dresses and stuff. I mean, probably one reason that this. Katie put a scary story up. It says, and I think I can show it. Let me see if it. She says, my scary story. After listening to the last episode several years ago, I was driving back from a roller derby tournament in Missouri after 2 a.m. when I realized I was too tired to make it home. So I assume she's going to write the rest of it. I'll have her. You can actually highlight stuff too. Oh, she wrote, so I stopped at a motel. This is from our friend Katie. Checked in, turned off the light, and collapsed in the bed. Right as my brain was shutting down, a lamp across the room that I hadn't touched turned on, startling me. Ooh. My immediate thought was, oh, this is how I'm going to die. After sitting paralyzed in a bed for a few minutes, I turned the bedside light on and TV on, turned off the lamp, and got back into bed. Oh, I'm excited to see how this is like those 2-line horror stories that she was talking about. Oh, this is how I'm going to die. So I assume she's writing the last part, and I'll read it as soon as it pops up. I was vacillating though when deciding to do this between this and maybe doing something skull-like, but I've been drawing a lot of skulls for all of the materials for the Kickstarter. As doing a Kickstarter is somewhat stressful. And so I always start stress drawing skulls and skeletons. She says the stupidest thing I could find on TV, as I recall, was Deuce Bigalow, male gigolo, because I assume that no just universe would let me die watching something so awful. Eventually I fell asleep, got up a few hours later, and finished my drive home.
Interesting. We have 3 different touch lamps in our room that do. So was what?
I said some of those hotels have pretty creepy backgrounds. People murdered at them. There was, as you know, having gone to old conventions for years, like some of the hotels that you would be at science fiction conventions at were notorious for being somewhat questionable. I remember there was one hotel that we went to. I forget which convention it was, but people had blood on the walls in one of their rooms, which is not something you would find
we
in
were
a
at the
hotel room.
we were at the Radisson Mulebach in Kansas City 76 World Science Fiction Convention, and interestingly, they had a presentation going for this movie that was going to come out next year called Star Wars, that everybody's like, what is this movie about? So that was kind of weird. But there was on one of the floors, we just were out walking around, and there was a door that obviously wasn't a room, so we thought maybe it was like staircase down low to the next floor. And we opened up the door, and it was about maybe 2 feet deep, and that was it. It wasn't like a closet deep enough, really. I mean, maybe only a foot deep. It wasn't deep enough to really be a closet. Plus, there was nothing to hang things on. There were no shelves, but there was red-brown stuff splattered onto the wall of this dead-end room. And it's like, okay, you just kind of shut that and just kind of move on. Yeah, seriously disturbing.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of times the hotels for those venues aren't necessarily because they want it to be affordable, but some of those places can be a little bit questionable, maybe a lot questionable. I don't know if
this one was Yeah, I mean, this particular hotel was like, I mean, this was this, I mean, like real nice place. We went when we went down to have dinner one night. They had a bar in the Radisson Mulebach there, and we go into it, and they have seating in these little alcoves. And in one of the alcoves, and we're looking at, there's all these stained glass there and stuff, and in each alcove there's a little mural, tiny mural. And we're looking at it and going, wow, taste, because these were Maxfield Parrish pieces, that they showed in here. And we mentioned it to the bartender, because I'm looking at it going, man, this is like the best printed lithograph I've ever seen. Now, these were all Maxfield Parrish originals in the alcoves of this hotel.
Whoa.
So
they had originals at this hotel? That is amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty wild.
Sometimes I don't think these hotels, when they have original art like that, completely respect what they have there either.
No, probably not. And there didn't appear to be much protecting it, because I'm sure there were people sitting in those alcoves with drinks and things. But at the time in 1976, they seemed in very good condition. So there you go.
I wonder if they're still there, or if they've been removed or changed or whatever. It'd be interesting to find out and see.
Good question.
It's fun.
By the way, did you get to go to the science fiction show at the Rockwell Museum?
Yes. It was very good.
Okay, cool.
Are you going to go? I think it's
had to pass, and I think today was the last day in the one in Massachusetts. But it is going to be being shown in Chattanooga this spring.
That's right. You
the
had
entire
said
summer
it was
and
going to
fall.
be. That's really cool that you'll be able to see it, because it definitely is worth. I mean, heck, I'd drive to Chattanooga to see it again.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, I was still trying to get there, and then when I saw that versus an 11-hour drive up to the Rockwell, it's only a 5.5-hour drive to Chattanooga. So it's like, yeah, we can wait. So.
Oh yeah, it's definitely worth
time.
And I think that a lot of this type of artwork is getting, there's more interest, I think, in showing it nowadays. I mean, obviously, I think a lot of the work done for, fantasy and science fiction book covers, games and stuff is definitely very much part of the visual language and cultural language that's happening right now. I think a lot of times I'd like to see, colleges and academics do a lot more study on the effect of pop culture artwork on society. The way we draw pirates is directly a result of how Howard Pyle drew them in storybooks in the late 1800s. Pirates didn't look like that before.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so much of our visual understanding of life is based on the work of illustrators for products and shows and stuff like that. Sure. And it seems like it's sorely neglected as an area of study, when actually it shows so much about, how people feel about, history and movies and, all that kind of thing. So I just got a message. I wonder if that means Kat.
By the way, these are.
Oh, Kat says she's back.
These are two. Good. These are two recent daily sketching workout pieces that I did, and they were kind of doing Halloween things. And this one was a piece. It was supposed to be a child and their pet monster.
Oh, let me see. I love your sketches that you do. And I guess we can push this here. You're going to be doing a sketch Kickstarter for your book of sketches coming out.
And this other one was a creature. This is Jack Pumpkinhead from Wizard of Oz.
Ooh,
I love it. I love the crow. That's so perfect.
Yeah.
So, how was your interview, Kat? And when will we see you?
All right. So it went really well. I really. By the way, this is Yeti.
This is her new dog, Yeti.
This is Yeti. He's 12 weeks old. So you'll be able to see the interview tonight on WCPO on their 11 o'clock broadcast, and you'll also be able to see it tomorrow morning as a delayed Halloween treat to all the viewers. And we're highlighting the Kickstarter, and also I told them all about the wonderful sketches and commissions that you can get from the artists such as myself, you, Christina, and Steve, and Inky, and Kevin. So.
Oh. Hi, Brennan.
Is Brendan here?
Yes.
Yay!
Well, this is Brennan Bradford, who used to sketch with us for the Dr. Sketchies. So, and
Okay.
and it's not Getty, it's Yeti.
Who?
Their dog.
Oh yeah, it's Yeti, Yeti, as in the abominable snowman. I need to.
He expects fan art, I should say.
Oh, well, Yeti wants to be let down now, so I'm going to let him do that. And here's your dog toy.
He does kind of look like a Yeti, and Brennan's another artist, so he posts stuff around on his Instagram too, which I think is. What's your Instagram, Brennan? He'll type it in when he.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm still working on my sketch here. Let me show it really quick. Yeah, this is where I am on this.
Oh,
I'm just
nice.
looking at my headdress, and I've been talking more than drawing, so it's not been going as fast as.
Whoop.
There, yeah. So.
Yeah, it looks good.
I was telling Tom I was just in the mood to do a digital drawing today, and so that's kind of where things are right now. I was just getting ready to work on her dress a little bit more, but that's great. I'm glad you talked about the sketches, and we have around a little like 50 hours left on the Kickstarter.
Yeah,
which I always think like the 30-day Kickstarter is just the amount to have so you don't go insane.
Yeah.
I don't think I could live through a 60-day one.
No. Let me go catch Yeti because he has walked off. I will be right back.
So I'm on my own. Everybody's left. So
yeah, you can talk about the Kickstarter some more.
Oh yes. And let's see who else is on here right now. Oh, Doodlebee. So Brennan is on here. His Instagram is DEWDLEBEE, and he does some really great sketches. He was actually in we did a comic anthology in the before times. Tim and I and Brennan all worked on called 12 Way with Cheese, and we had, I don't remember when we did that. I want to say it was like at least, was it 10 years ago? Oh yeah, Katie says they're here for us, so I'm not alone. Yay! Thanks, Katie. Thanks, Brennan. I think we did 12 Way with Cheese maybe 10 years ago. It was before Kat moved here. And that was that kind of is a good segue into doing our comic that we're doing now, is because we wanted to do another comic anthology that showcased local talent, and showcased local talent, and we needed a hook for it, and we decided to, because that was the one thing we loved 12 Way with Cheese, but one of the difficulties with it was that it didn't really have a what would you say, all the stories were very different from each other. And we thought if we were going to do a comic anthology, everybody likes spooky stories. And Kat is that's her thing. She's written books on hauntings and ghosts and sees ghosts. She sees dead people.
I do see dead people.
I think we need to do a t-shirt. Kat sees dead people.
That could be something. I still want the good night and stay weird, which I like to say at the end of our shows. Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
And so that was how we decided to do this. We want to do one every year, but one thing about this, besides the podcast, is it takes a huge amount of work behind the scenes to do even a 44-page comic anthology, besides just doing, which I have to mention, I'm still working on the artwork for my story.
Yes, you are. And editor little me. Both of you. Both of you. I am waiting on artwork from both of you.
Let's see. Here we go.
Kat, see, we're on with our editor, and we're the naughtiest of the artists this year.
Oh my goodness. There was a running pool on who would get their artwork last, I think, between you and Kevin, Christina. And Kevin got his back in July, and he's just like, I'm so sorry, Kat. I know you asked for it in June, but it's July and here it is. And he's like, I'm sure Christina has her work done. And all I can do was just this little like no, you're first. So, and he was surprised. So I know we talked about that when he was on the show a while ago. So
it's been one of those summers. Just a lot of projects, a lot of work. All of us, in addition to doing the comic, have other projects that we work on. We
got families
and stuff.
We got pets. We do this. This is turning into my full-time job very quickly. But I think, Christina, you can feel the same too. What is that? Was that something fancy that we could do now?
Yes, you can highlight quotes, and I love that. Cats do see dead people. I think that's true. Cats see a lot of stuff that we can't. I like to think that the little cat that I just lost last week, Bob, is like sitting on my desk somewhere.
Oh, I am sure he's going to come back. Don't worry.
You never know. They perhaps a part of them are always with us.
Yeah, basically. That's how it is. It's just they never really truly leave. They're always with you.
Mm-hmm.
If not in your heart, they're haunting your stovetops.
He'll be begging for treats in the hereafter.
Yeah.
Well, so many people have said that they've seen their pets. And we actually did. Which episode was that where we had the people that actually see our pet psychics and stuff? And
I think we had 2 back-to-back episodes about seeing spirits. I think those episodes were in the teens for our podcast.
We should have them on again. It was really interesting. A lot of them communicate with animals. They can't usually talk about what's wrong with them.
Mm-hmm. Usually people are more forthcoming talking about ghosts seeing their pets than they are family members. There's just, and reasons can vary. Like, people could be closer to their pets than their family members, or it's just more, excuse me. It feels slightly more or less taboo to talk about spirits of pets than it is dead humans.
Mm-hmm.
So, it could be that. But definitely people have just stories about seeing pets more often than family members. I mean, I was just reflecting back on, what was it, 2 weeks ago when Wheatley showed up? Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
That was where your son saw him.
Yeah. I was just, I want to say playing along, but because I didn't see him, but for a explanation, because I'm sure we've piqued people's interest now. So, a few weeks ago, before we got Yeti, we were giving baths to our 2 other dogs. We lost our middle child, basically, a few months ago, and to cancer that he fought valiantly for 5 years. So this was known to happen. And my young son, he's a toddler, and he hasn't really... I sometimes suspect that he can see dead things or other things too, but toddler imagination, you're just kind of like, I don't know where to fall on this. So we bathe both of our dogs, Chewy and Mickey, and he turns to me and he goes, "Wheatley want bath." And he would help me, as he did this time, bathe the dogs. And I'm like, okay, where little dude, where is Wheatley? And he points to our landing beyond the gate, so little dude doesn't fall down the stairs. And he's like, "Wheatley want bath, Wheatley here." And I'm like, okay, well, Wheatley, come on up, let's get you in a bath. Wheatley did not like baths growing up. He was like a lot of other dogs, just did not like getting wet, especially in the bathtub. And little dude goes, Wheatley not here. And he points to the bedroom, the master bedroom. So we walk into the bedroom. I'm like, okay, Wheatley, if you want to take a bath, let's go. I can go draw the water and everything. And then little dude looks at me and goes, Wheatley hiding. Wheatley no bath. So Wheatley did not have a bath that night. And but I'm not surprised. I've seen before we got Yeti, who is mostly white, and ironically has the same tail markings as Wheatley did. I would see a little tuft of Wheatley's white hair up from the top of his head or his tail walking behind our dining room table after he passed away, or around our bed. And I would hear him sighing from time to time. And then another time, about a month ago, I was in bed getting ready to fall asleep, and I could feel Wheatley just sit on the bed. And I will say it's very, and then he put his hand on, or his head on my hand for pets, which is how he would beg for pets. And Mickey, who is our old girl, she is the same breed, but much smaller, and her mannerisms are much different. So I knew it wasn't her. So, and then Chewy is put in a crate at night. So it wasn't him. So yeah, he's been around, and now that we have Yeti, I don't know if we're going to see him quite as frequently, but that is our own personal pet story from the past month.
Well, it'll be interesting to see, how that manifests. Do you find that some things quiet down when you get a new animal like that?
I don't think it quiets down. I just don't focus on it because I'm trying to make sure the dog doesn't poop in the house. Actually,
well, there is that.
Yeah, very real life concerns here. With the interview that I just did for WCPO, one of the questions I got was, what are we planning for issue 3? What topics are we interested in doing this time? And I was just like, we have a few topics. I know one of the ones that we'd like to do is the witch's tree in Kentucky.
Oh, yeah. And also, tell us a little bit about the witch's tree.
So this is a fun story. It actually has to do with a landmark, and the landmark has changed slightly since the story originated. So there is, in northern Kentucky, a very gnarly tree that is very old, very tall, and very, very thick. And it looks like a hanging tree because its branches just glide out at the right height to hang a person.
Ooh.
Below this tree is a street or a road, and it has 3 bumps, 3 perfect human-sized bumps at the bottom of this tree. And it is a public street. And legend has it that there were some witches that practiced witchcraft in Cincinnati, and were caught and fled to northern Kentucky for safety. They were eventually found again and hung at this tree and buried beneath it. And they are the bumps in this road. It's their grave site. And it still is there to this day. It's known as the witch's tree, and it's delightfully spooky. What I love about it is that it gets the actual manner of dispatching witches correct in the United States, which was, we hung them. We did not burn them at the stake. So there's a lot of witch stories around the Midwest and around the United States, and a lot of times they'll be very sensationalized. There's one, I think, that's outside of Mansfield or Lucas, Ohio, where a girl was found to be a witch and burned alive at a tree. And it's just a way to explain a tree that was struck by lightning. But no, we hung our witches in this country. We didn't burn them or throw them in water. So I like it. It's our nice little witch story. There's also Witch's Tower, I think, outside of Dayton, which is a similar type of story, but I'm not as familiar with it. And,
well, we've talked about, you put together, and this is a good time to talk about it because it's 4:30 and we've got about a half hour left. Kat will put together a dossier of possible topics.
Yes.
And we will put it on our website.
Yeah, so what I do, just a little bit of I guess explaining how we work how do we want to say the backstage, peek into how we function. Insider baseball, I guess is the phrase. That's what I was looking for. Basically, we actually start planning our issues in December, and I will put together a list of locations that we could possibly write about. And some of them have been around since issue 1, have been rejected twice. They're still on the list. And then some are new. And we're also always looking for suggestions from readers and listeners of the podcast. We always like bringing in new stories as well. Find some fresh stuff. So we try to sprinkle it with, or balance it with, well-known locations such as the Sorg Opera House, Cincinnati Music Hall, with new stories that are new to viewers or listeners, such as the Crosswick Snake, or Maud Hughes isn't really obscure, but it isn't talked about as much as it used to be. So, or like Lauren Pruden, the psychic medium, is new too. She's a story that we, thanks to Jeff Cease, were able to talk about, but it's a story that almost got lost to history if it wasn't for really the University of Cincinnati documenting it. So, and then Jeff working on it as well. So we come up with a dossier and we put it up on the website and open for submissions, and those open up in January. And our artists and mostly writers at this point will pick from the list, and we try to keep repeats from happening. But like in the case with Steve and Aziza, they both picked the Crosswick Snake, but their treatments were very different. So we were able to keep both of them in the anthology, because they were not, although they had the same base, the way they interpreted it was very different and delightfully different. So they were both in it. So yeah, writers will write treatments and then they send them to me, and we will share them as Christina, myself, and then Tim Fuller as art director. We kind of read through everyone's stories. We go, okay, this is a good one. This is a good one. And we try to work with writers and illustrators to make sure that everything is well balanced. If you're a writer who wants an illustrator, we may be able to find you somebody, and vice versa. And yeah, that's how we go. And by March, we have people that already have treatments. They're working on their thumbnails. And then eventually they send those back to me to make sure that everything is flowing right. And then I give them my thoughts and then return them. And it's just a give and a take for several months where people will work and send me their work. I'll look through it, make corrections, and send it back. So eventually we have the entire book done, generally by September. You too. And,
except for the bad artists.
Yeah, except for you naughty artists. And then we're doing the campaign in October of every year. And that's how our year is structured.
That takes over everything. I mean, it is a lot of work to do these, but to do these Kickstarters. But then after the Kickstarter is the fulfillment, which we have to fulfill and print the book and put all the rewards together, get everything signed, which also takes a lot of time. And then also one thing that we try to do, and that's why it was so important for us to get to 8K for this Kickstarter, is that we give an advance to the artists in the next book.
Yes.
We try not to, we're trying to make it so that, this is not a free work. This is something everybody gets. I mean, obviously no one's going to get a Ferrari unless it's a very cheap Ferrari, but we do want to make
cardboard one.
Yeah, if you could get a cardboard Ferrari, but it's really important for us that all the artists get to get compensated that work on the book.
Yeah, the 8K will help pay the advances of everybody who works on issue 3. Just like when we did fundraising for issue 1, there was a stretch goal for paying the advances of everyone in issue 2.
Yeah, and so and we're excited, to get started on the next issue and seeing what each issue is really different. I really like this issue. I like the first issue too. There's some great stories in this one. Like I said, I love Steve's cryptid story. I love Aziza's story. Kevin's story is delightfully creepy.
I love Kevin's. I love just the way that he used Ben-Day dots and made it look very printy. Like he added a lot of texture to his, and I love that because my own art style is very clean, and so I liked seeing the a little bit messy. I actually had to message him and say, "Are these smudges that you purposely put on the page, or are these accidents that were forgotten to get corrected? Because it looks like it's purposely there, but it's just not frequent enough for me to go, I'm unsure." So, and he did reply and say, yes, those are supposed to be there. I'm like, great. Now that I know, I will strike that off of my list of questions. But I try to be...
Oh, go on. You try to be...
as an editor, I try to not hound everyone, but still be present enough to be like, hey, if you have an issue, you can totally tell me. Or if you need help, I'm here. So I try to be present, but not annoying.
But one thing we were talking about a little bit earlier while you were gone, Kat, is we hope eventually, like at 5 years, to collect all the stories in a book.
That would be fun.
To collect all the stories together, do like a soft cover kind of omnibus edition.
Yeah, that'd be fun. I like that.
To kind of, so you can see all of the stories together. I mean, I like what you've said about not only are we doing these stories because they interest us, but, it kind of preserves that history. Like the Laura Pruden story and the Magic 8 Ball, his story was just, I think the thing that blew me away about that is we have so much toy history in Cincinnati because it used to be the home of Kenner, and a lot of Play-Doh was invented here, and the Star Wars toys were started here, and yet that's a story that's almost completely forgotten.
Yeah, except for a few murals that are around downtown.
Yeah. I mean, some toy diehard friends knew the story already, but I sure didn't know it until Jeff told us about it, and I thought that was really exciting. Somebody was just telling me about, but it doesn't have a haunted story, that Uno was also invented in Cincinnati, but unfortunately no ghosts in Uno. So.
That's fine. Not every, we also, the inventor of the Pringles can is buried in a Pringles can here in Cincinnati. There's no ghost involved, but wow, that makes an interesting little bit of trivia. And that's really what we are doing, is just collecting odd Cincinnati trivia and then telling people about it via sequential art, which I love. And I know a lot of people started reading from a very young age these haunted history books, and basically what we're doing is illustrating one.
Yeah, exactly. And actually, since we have Tom on here, the Screaming Bridge stories, when we had James Willis on, how many bridges did he say in Ohio alone are screaming bridges? Like 50?
I think he's about 44, maybe 50. Yeah.
I mean, it's definitely.
I think just the fact that with the railroad tracks, noise, and everything, it's a very, very common phenomenon.
Well, I think the train, probably in a time when people weren't as mobile, was sort of a catalyst for stories because it brought new things to town, new products, new people, and perhaps that's why, a train track has so much lore associated with it.
That could be.
Well, I think there was just like the old, like the Grimm's fairy tales and things, very much like cautionary tales and things like that. I mean, they were much literally grimmer at the time because they wanted to teach the children lessons. And I think sometimes because of the danger of railroad tracks, that there is also a cautionary aspect of, why these things have happened, perhaps, that if you tell your kids, hey, people have been murdered there, I'm sure depending on the age of the child, we're going there now. But for maybe smaller children, it might be, been away from parents to keep kids away from those dangerous areas. So there could be, sort of a cautionary effect there if it's so continually, showing up that way, or they're just haunted the hell out of each other.
Yeah. When did you first hear about the bridge? You probably said this on the podcast, but since, like, who first told you lore about it?
About the Malt Hughes Bridge?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
for
what
me,
inspired you to hear a story about it? Yeah.
It's just one of those things. We moved into a neighborhood that was about a mile from, and just talking to actually like to other parents and things mostly is when it came up, going, hey, do you know about the Malt Hughes Bridge? Because I'm pretty sure when we moved in there, it was still the original bridge when we first got there. They had not torn it down and rebuilt it yet. And it is, it's just a crazy area too, because you're on this like weird dike that you drive along with the railroad tracks on one side and fields down on the other. It seems so out of character for the rest of the roads around there. And then some are going down this thing with a steep drop on either side, and you have to make this right-hand turn across the edge, where they had like virtually no railings. I've never seen such low railings on a bridge before. But it was sort of common knowledge there. The first things we heard about was, hey, did you know there's a haunted bridge down the road? So
I just picture the neighborhood gathering where that happened. Hey, did you know that there's a bridge of death? Oh, really? Who knew?
Yeah. Exactly.
I mean, that's one of the exciting things about somebody.
Because the thing was, I don't know why there was a stream that ran down along the track there and stuff, and down behind our house. Because by the time the tracks got behind our house, it was elevated because the bridge that went over Princeton Road and then went back underneath Maud Hughes, and it was always kind of foggy back there and stuff, and the trains going across. There was a actual crossing not too far from there, Tylersville Road. So you would hear mournful wisp stuff and, see the light, thundering through down the hill below us and stuff. And that was pretty spooky.
And there's something really scary kind of about when you hear trains at night. Like the wailing sounds very mournful.
Oh, sure.
And it almost sounds preternatural or something. There's a creepiness to it.
And just definite train stories, are just go hand in hand. My grandfather was an engineer for C&O Railroad, and there were just always horrible things that happened to people and stuff like that, crushing cars and things exploding, and so it was sort of a death cult kind of a thing. Seemed to circulate along him around train, the world and things.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting, guys. Brennan said that it's interesting how Ohio has a lot of haunted places. What do you think, Kat? I think a lot of places. The one thing James said was he thought Ohioans were prouder of their weird history than other people.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Oh, Ohio is proud to be weird. We have some interesting history. Definitely, speaking as somebody who grew up in a different Midwestern state, and Indiana is very much more buttoned up about their weird history. You have to be somebody who lives in the town for at least a few years before anyone's going to start telling you about the strange farmhouse. Or down the way, or the witch's house down the road. Here in Ohio, no, they're just like, we got weird stuff. We got bridges. We've got creeks. We've got Satan's Hollow in a big floating skull. Our parks are haunted. Like Cincinnati Music Hall. The day I moved in, they're just like, or basically from day one, they're like, hey, we're haunted. Did you know we're haunted? We're on a giant burial ground. They don't hide the fact that traumatic stuff happened to them. And it's the same with Washington Park, or all the way up in Painesville, Ohio with Riders Inn. They're along the Lake Erie coast, and they're just like, did you know we're haunted? We're super old and we have a hotel ghost. It's just very proud about it. What's also interesting is the penitentiaries and jailhouses, especially the ones that are closed now, have no qualms saying, oh, we got a ghost or two that haunts our jailhouse. Or the historical society, like the Butler County one with the Benninghofen house, or like the director, that was Kathy that we kept running into when we were there investigating. She's just like, I am proud. I have seen ghosts here. We have a pair of ghost children that run up and down the second floor hallway. Like, very open about seeing ghosts. And it's not like that everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, I think
more like Rhode Island in that way.
What Midway from, Kat?
Sorry?
Which Midwest state originally?
Oh, a very far off state called Indiana. But I'm from, I grew up at the Michigan-Indiana border, so a lot of lower Michigan culture is what I'm also used to as well. And from what I remember, like, Michigan people don't really talk too much about the strangeness that happens there, unless you're around Detroit and maybe Lansing and Grand Rapids. Then they're a bit more forthcoming. If, like, my friends took me to a haunted bar/pizzeria that is in Grand Rapids, and I just go up to the bartender and like, I hear your place is haunted, and they're like, oh yes, let me tell you the story. So it's not definitely a universal thing, but just in general, like in Indiana, you definitely have to be a member of the small town or be trusted enough to have these stories told to you.
That's really interesting. And we are going to be going off the air in 15 minutes. So does anyone have any questions? We have some people watching right now. Does anyone have any questions about the next issue, or and we can kind of show where we are in our sketches? I don't think Kat and I got as far as we hoped because we've talked too much.
It's almost like we do a radio show as a hobby.
Know, it is. I know. We're so used to talking about stuff but we don't usually sketch while we're doing
that is very true.
We don't usually drawing and we're just not great multitaskers, I guess, when it comes to that.
I'll let you show you what I've gotten done so far.
Yeah, and then we'll see what creature Tom's working on.
So
ooh,
there we go.
Oh, and the sink, of course, because we've
nice.
talked about the sink so many times as being a place where people see a lot of ghosts, and and you've told many stories on the podcast of the ghosts you've encountered in bathrooms.
I hate it. I hate it so freaking much.
But that's a great book title.
It is.
I encountered in bathrooms.
I keep threatening to write it. I actually have the proposal for Schiffer, which is my long form writing publisher. Because I've been to too many haunted bathrooms in my life. And one is very well known in Wilder, Kentucky at Bobby Mackey's.
Which I think there is a thought that there might be a Bobby Mackey story in the next issue, maybe?
We have been pitched one.
Yeah, we have been pitched one, so we'll see what happens when all the dust settles. We hate to give any spoilers because we don't know anything yet.
Yeah,
but
basically.
We're just saying.
That's true.
Yeah.
So, and show your sketch, Tom.
Let's see. Last of the.
Ooh.
Oh, there we go.
Very nice. I love that. I love that sketch.
I like how you did the feet.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
Like slightly
this by the way, the sketch of the day one was an underwater ghost. So this is what I was doing. There we go, for an underwater ghost.
That.
Ooh, I love that. That's amazing.
I like that.
And we were just talking about the iconography of pirates and how Howard Pyle, the illustrator, is who defined what pirates look like.
Huh. Yeah, I was getting strong Pirates of the Caribbean vibes from that illustration
Yes.
there, Tom.
If you've ever been to see, I
Oh,
don't
sure.
know if you're a fan of Howard Pyle's work, Kat. Are you familiar with
Oh.
him?
I am
we
not.
used to live in Wilmington, Delaware. So we would go up to the Brandywine
So you went to the
Museum.
Brandywine Museum.
Just up the road. Yeah.
So when you're up,
I mean,
when you're up in New
one of
England,
the coolest things about living in that area because of the Brandywine and the whole Howard Pyle and NC, all the whole Wyeth family was that my wife and this is kind of like the Mansfield Parish thing I said earlier. We were going to play rack the local YMCA and go in the YMCA, and I'm waiting for my wife to meet me, and I'm sitting in this chair. And I'm going, that is probably the best reproduction I've ever seen of a painting from Kidnapped. Well, no, it was an original painting of C. Wyeth's from Kidnapped hanging on the wall in the YMCA. So like, wow, that's pretty cool. I think we used to go to, which was a Wilmington Saving, it was Wisps, and behind was a 40-foot NC Wyeth mural behind the tellers in our bank. So there were some perks to living in the Wilmington, Delaware area. So
wow.
Yeah.
But no, Howard Pyle stuff was amazing. Him, Frank Schoonover, all those guys.
Yeah, here's
Wonderful
a
stuff.
Howard Pyle. This is a Howard Pyle piece.
Ooh.
Oh, yeah.
And if you and I'll show where my piece is too. Let's see. This is the piece where I am right now. If I talked a little less, it might be done, but it's not. But anyway,
nice. I see with the translucency going on.
Yeah, and it will be more translucent at the end once I finish the lighting and stuff. I've just basically blocked it in. I haven't gotten that much done on detail and stuff. I was just about to work on the dress, and I had worked on her. I was about to work on the headdress a little bit more.
Okay.
But Howard Pyle, one thing about the Brandywine Museum, which I highly recommend anybody watching if you're up in Pennsylvania or somewhere up like in Delaware, like you described, they're all very close, that tri-state area of New Jersey. The Brandywine Museum was started by the Wyeths. It was an art school. Was it started by N.C. Wyeth, Tom? And it was Howard Pyle?
No, I think actually started. It was Howard Pyle started it. Yeah.
Well, did he start it? Okay. And it was an art school.
Because you had people like Schoonover and Wyeth were all students and stuff. I think Pyle got it going.
Mm-hmm. And so Howard Pyle, if you were, there's a lot of old illustrated books about King Arthur and Robin Hood, and you can see a lot of his beautiful ink work. But he and N.C. Wyeth also did a lot of book covers in the late 1800s, like for example, Treasure Island and just a lot of different tales. And actually, fun fact about Howard Pyle. One of his great admirers was Vincent van Gogh. And he was like, who is this incredible artist that I keep seeing? And which magazine that he illustrated for, Tom? Do you remember? I want to say it was like the Saturday Evening Post or something. That Van Gogh had... I
don't think I've ever heard the story.
Yes, he. I'll post it on the page. He was a huge admirer of Howard Pyle's work and actually said, "Who is this incredible American artist who does these paintings?" He admired his work very much. Howard Pyle's an incredible illustrator from the golden age of illustration. So, unfortunately, it seems like the golden age of illustration.
By the way,
is not.
When it comes to talking about illustrators and N.C. Wyeth, we went down and saw that Wyeth show that they had at our museum, the Cincinnati Art Museum.
Mm-hmm.
And I was really annoyed and had to leave a comment because they kept talking about how he was an illustrator, but always really wanted to be an artist instead. And I was like, oh man, that pissed me off.
I guess
like 2 or
it's
3
one of
times.
those things. I think we were talking about how all artists were illustrators. Whoever you got paid. That was a ghost, by the way. If you heard that.
Exactly.
that was the ghost saying it's time for us to get off the air. We've been talking for 3 hours, and if we had ever wondered if we could stay on the air for 3 hours, we just found out.
Oh yeah, I wasn't questioning that. So, Christina, can you bring up the webpage for the Kickstarter?
It is going across. It's going around the bottom of the page.
But no, so people could visually see it.
Oh, okay. Hold on just a second, and let me get it here. And hopefully we can get a lot more people to, in these last 2 days, hurry before there is not a Kickstarter anymore.
Yeah. Well, we have a little over $200 left to raise for our Kickstarter,
Yes,
and we do want to feature the ink drawings by everyone.
There you
Christina,
go.
you have a few.
I actually don't have any ink drawings left. I have 2 avatars left and 1 watercolor sketch left.
Well, so you still have some commissions open. Kevin Necessary does as well. I know I have some ink drawings and some cryptid drawings both available. I have cryptid ink sketches, and I also have inks, and they're listed as ink sketches, but there's a 6x10 or a 4x6 that are available. Inky has some left. She does awesome work. She's very modern in the way that she draws. When I mean like that is much more of the Cal Arts style of drawing. So if you want something fresh like that. Yeah, I do too. I got one of her sketches.
This could be available if anybody wants it.
Oh, hold it up. Yeah, if somebody writes us and say they want Tom's sketch, I'll put it up there, and you can get it. Oh, and
well, Steve still has 2 ink sketches left. Inky has 4, and then Kevin has
6
ink sketches that are 6x10 that he is doing, and he has 3 available. So if you would like an ink sketch by an Emmy Award-winning illustrator, this is your chance to get that.
Nice.
Yes.
There you go.
And yeah, hold on.
I have to sign off. I'm being paged by She Who Must Be Obeyed, also known as my wife. So.
Well, thanks for being on.
It was lots of fun.
Yeah, thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Y'all take care.
Show one last picture of it as you walk out. Hold it up one last time. Hold up your drawing one last time.
Oh, this one?
The snake.
Oh, there we go.
Yay!
All right.
Thanks for joining us today, Tom. Oh,
I'm still here.
That. No, I was clicking his and StreamYard. This is what I love about StreamYard. Everybody, we're going to start doing our podcast in StreamYard. Is that look how nice that looks on the screen.
Sorry, I'm dying. Anyway, yeah, it looks great. I love all these graphics that we could pop in and out. I think it makes it a little bit more interactive.
It's unfortunate most people don't watch us on YouTube. Most people listen to us on iTunes or SoundCloud, and that's wonderful.
Yeah, we love it. We love all of you listeners.
From now on, if you watch on YouTube, it will be a visual feast.
That's a good way. A visual feast, yes.
Get a little slap happy here.
Yeah, it's been a while. It's oh my goodness, done so many interviews for this. So, but
you did the face of the campaign.
Yeah, but I like it. I like that role. So
I'm glad you like Brennan. I don't think we're going to be doing live YouTube, Brennan, because I don't think we're quite ready to stream live. Maybe eventually, though.
Yeah, we got to get those cat butts ready.
Exactly. So I think we're ready to sign off. So do you have anything in closing to say, Kat?
Well, we can also share our actual information. So you can follow us on social media at Sin Cabinet Curio and on Twitter, and Cincy Cabinet of Curiosities on Instagram. And also we are still looking for, we're always looking for hometown haunts to share on the show for the Hometown Haunts podcast. And if you have a spooky story to, there we go, Hometown Haunts podcast, you can also email us at hometownhauntedmail@gmail.com, and that will give us the story. Please remember grammar when writing it so that I don't accidentally say that somebody's foot has fallen off like I have done on air. Anyway, but yeah, we love to hear your stories and tell all of your friends.
Yes.
Support the Kickstarter.
Yay, support the Kickstarter. Tell your friends to support it. Let's do issue 3. Tell us your spooky stories so we can read them on the podcast. So,
yes.
Thanks, everyone.
Happy Halloween. Stay safe. Say hi to the 12-foot skeleton.